Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto Uzumaki is the last of his clan and reborn his clan member part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. As the man known as the Sage of Six Paths was lying on his deathbed, he requested the presence of his youngest son. Upon arriving, the young man knelt beside his dying father, asking what it is that he wished to speak about. The old sage simply said, "I know I have already given you and your brothers your inheritance, but with you there is something else I must give you. 2 stories from my younger years, in which both stories will explain a few things, and help you understand my life in a better way. Now let me begin with the first story." The old sage shifted in his bed, attempting to get comfortable for the first story he needed to entrust to this youngest son, and with a deep breath he started. When I first heard Kami's whisper into my ears in my younger years, she instructed me to meditate on top of the highest peak for 31 days. And 31 nights with no food or water, and to not waver while in my meditative state. She said to me that I would have her specifically guarding me until the 31 days and nights have passed. The old sage started, taking a deep breath before continuing. I went along with what was spoken to me by Kami, and ventured for the highest peak around. Once I achieved getting to the top of the peak, I did as instructed, and sat atop the peak and started meditating in a Zen position. Once I started, I felt the whole world shimmer, and the after image of the cold snowy peak I sat atop of was faded from my memory as a starry landscape played before me. I then heard Kami whisper into my ears once more. She said, "Put your soul into your stomach, and concentrate on the flame burning brightly from within, and don't break your concentration until the 31 days and nights have passed." Her voice said to me, pausing for a minute as if waiting for me to comprehend what she was saying, before speaking again. Flashback. While in this state, my child, the stars will turn over to let the sun refresh the world of the cold night as accustomed to in your world. When you no longer hear my voice, all but one star shall shine upon you, showing that one day has passed you by. Kami instructed. Once you have passed 31 days and nights, you will understand the questions your soul is asking you, and bring about your destiny. Kami finished as her voice faded from my mind. Flashback end. After the trials of my meditation passed, I came to understand that the flame that Kami was speaking of was in fact the very will of chakra, waiting to be released to the world of mankind. The sage finished before he started coughing a little, while in slight pain. Calming his coughing fit, the sage continued on. After descending the peak, I noticed that I had only been atop the peak in which Kami instructed me to go to for only one day. That must have been what Kami herself meant when she said she'd provide me with her protection in my trial. He spoke before taking another deep, jagged breath to speak again. I also realized that when she said I'd have to go without food or water and survive on sheer will alone, that she was testing my mind, body, and soul at the very extreme, in hopes that I pass her test so that I may prove worthy and true of the destiny that was brought upon me since my birth. The sage paused for a moment to gather his thoughts. After descending the peak, I quickly started teaching 6 of the closest people I had to me from my childhood since my older brother left, that had the flame from within, bringing them along with me on a journey across the lands, so that I may teach the world of the ways of the Nishu religion. The sage smiled, thinking about his 6 chosen companions from his younger years, before continuing. As my chosen 6 followers, and I ventured upon the warring lands, spreading my teachings and religion of Nishu to the people. I quickly noticed that upon my arrival to new lands that I was affecting those around me greatly by just my presence alone. When I would interact with new people in the different lands, my vision would blur for a split second, showing those before me in gray with a light blue haze around them with a speck of blue from within the people. Upon gathering the people I spoke to, the more the ones around me tried to grasp what I was teaching them about the ways of Nishu, and depending on how they took what I said to heart, that small speck of light blue from within would grow to a smaller, but yet still noticeable blue flame, similar to the one from within me but much smaller. The sage explained before carrying on. When those that chose to listen to my words and knowledge continued doing so, the small blue flame from within changed once again, creating thin blue lines throughout the person's body, jetting out directly from the flame to all parts of the body, conjoining with all muscles and joints. I realized that when those who followed my teachings had reached this stage, that they knew enough of the Nishu ways to pass on to others. So I'd leave them with the parting words that they should spread what I have taught to them, to those who are closest to them, so that they may come to the understanding of what it means to be of the Nishu sect. The wise sage finished while deep in thought for a few moments. After time passed and the chosen 6 that I held closest to me continued our travels spreading Nishu to the lands, I received Kami's whisper once again. She came to me while I was in my daily meditative state, the very same Zen meditative state that I used to undergo my trial atop the tallest peak. She spoke to me in the same starry landscape I witnessed from before, and slowly a figure appeared within my mind, revealing a beautiful woman with long white flowing hair and beautiful light blue piercing eyes, dressed in a long flowing white robe. Flashback. Kami was looking at the young sage before her that she had chosen to speak to. You have done well, my chosen one. The 6 you hold closest and dearest to you will not go unrewarded for their efforts in helping you along the ways of your journey. For it is time for them to hear my voice and become an even greater help to you than before. Kami finished. The sage took a breath of air into his lungs before speaking. If that is what you choose, I thank you greatly for the wisdom you have helped me find, and hope that my chosen 6 followers find the answers to the questions you have for them. This said to the divine being before him. Kami giggled to herself, causing the sage to raise an eyebrow in confusion to what he had just heard from Kami. Kami, seeing her sage's confusion, spoke up. You need not worry, as for I only have a gift for your chosen 6, one for each of them. Kami explained. As the sage processed what he had been told, Kami spoke out. Your first follower shall receive the gift of attraction and repulsion using his flame from within. He shall be called the Deva Path. Your second follower shall receive the gift to transform his body to metal and with it be able to summon weapons of any kind with a mere thought using his flame from within. He shall be called the Azura Path. Your third follower shall receive the gift of being able to read another mind by placing a hand on a selected person, while pulling the selected person's soul out of the body ready to pass judgment upon them. If the selected person he puts into judgment relents, he shall live and keep his body and soul. If the selected person refuses and remains on the path of sin, then the selected person shall have their soul devoured by the Shinigami, and the person shall fall into the underworld. This follower shall be called the Human Path. Your fourth follower shall receive the gift of summoning animals of all kinds to support and aid you in your journeys, allowing humankind to become one closer to animal kind and nature alike. She shall be called the Animal Path. Your fifth follower shall receive the gift of absorption. He shall be able to protect you and your other 6 followers with the ultimate defense by being able to absorb any attack consisting of chakra. He shall be called the Preda Path. Your sixth and final follower shall receive the gift with 2 abilities, one for interrogation and restoration by using the King of Hell himself. He shall be called the Naraka Path. Kami finished the explanation of her gifts that she was going to bestow onto her young sage's followers. The sage was about to speak up and ask a question but saw that Kami was once again about to speak to him. Seeing that the sage was going to hold his question for later, Kami continued speaking. Now, my chosen one, while your 6 followers shall receive these special gifts from me, you shall not be left out, Kami said with a smile on her beautiful face. When the sage heard that, he spoke up, interrupting the divine being, and spoke out. Kami-sama, just you sharing your wisdom with myself is a gift of such greatness that I do not wish for anything more, the sage said with respect to the woman of all creation. When the sage didn't hear anything after his words, he studied Kami's face and noticed she had a small smirk on her face, and closed her eyes before speaking once again. You are truly worthy of being my chosen one, my child. But you shall receive this gift from me to help you continue on your path in this life, as well as your next. For as you shall receive the gift, no one person shall ever receive again, for it is you alone that shall acquire this gift. It cannot be passed down in any means of teachings, nor can it be passed down by just your blood alone. You shall receive the gift of life and death. Kami explained, slightly shocking the sage with her words. The sage looked at Kami with nothing short of confusion expression on his face when he heard what Kami had said just a moment ago. When Kami noticed his once again confused expression, she knew that she needed to go into further detail on the matter. I understand your confusion, my child, for as any human can stand up and kill another human or animal, but what I speak of is life and death in its truest form. You shall be able to revive those who may have died before their time, or even those who have passed on long before you. You also will control the aspect of death as well, in some sorts the same way your third follower, the Human Path, can. But the difference between you and him will be the key factor that when you put a soul at the Shinigami's door, you shall be the one to present the soul of the fallen to the Shinigami, so that he may put the soul into either the afterlife or put the soul in hell. With this gift you shall gain an understanding even greater of what life and death is, so that when you grow of old age and come to face the Shinigami yourself, you can ascend beyond that of just a human. As the one chosen by myself, the other divine beings such as the Shinigami and Yami alike all have been told of your role to this world, and none of which shall interfere in your way on your journeys. Kami paused for a minute to let the sage comprehend her words before speaking up again. Each of them shall share their wisdom to you at different points in your life, so that when you pass on you may let the light fade from your eyes, not in fear, but in understanding of what this life was meant for. Kami explained and paused for a moment, seeing the sage with a thoughtful expression on his face. After putting Kami's words permanently into his mind, the sage calmed his mind down, and thought of the one question that was tugging at the back of his mind. Kami-sama, I shall humbly accept your gift, and use it so that it may better mankind and furthermore shed peace unto this world. not out of fear for one another, but out of respect and understanding between one another. After the sage's last words left his lips, and the air from his lungs, he looked into Cammie's face once again to see that she had a genuine smile expressed outwards for me to see. I see, you shall do just fine, my child, as I have nothing but high expectations in which I don't see falling ever in you. Now, as far as my gift unto you. When you go back to the world around you, search for the nearest pond of clear water, and look upon your reflection to see the gift that I have given to thee. Your eyes shall no longer be the pure blue that only a pure sapphire can hold a light to, but they shall be a lavender color of purple with no whites in them, representing that your eyes do not only look forward to one point of the world, but to all aspects of everything around you. You will also notice you will have 6 black rings around your pupil, each representing the gifts of your 6 chosen followers that will be blessed by myself, becoming your 6 paths to peace. Your pupils will be representing yourself as the center of all mankind for the future to remember by, and you will become known to the outer world as the outer path, and will take the name of the Sage of 6 Paths, Cammie explained with her smile still ever present on her face. Now, my child, it is time for you to carry on with your destiny, and with your 6 paths you shall bring mankind together, and start the means to bring the world unto the road to true peace. With that, Cammie faded from the starry landscape that the two had conversed in. The sage felt his soul and was tugging at that back of his mind. With that feeling, he felt as if that was his cue to leave his meditative state, and also faded from the starry landscape with the last whisper from Cammie that appeared to come out of the air itself. She said, "Speak to your chosen 6, and tell them that they each must all meditate in the Zen meditation position around you, standing in the middle. You must close your newfound eyes, and focus solely on the fire within you. Once this is done for 1 hour, your chosen 6 followers shall be reborn into the 6 paths." With that, the voice disappeared from the sage's ears and mind. Flashback end. When I came out of my meditative state, I saw the world in a light I've never thought could have fathomed. Everything was so clear, and I could see and sense the life force of everything in nature. The wind, the earth, the water, the lightning that was dancing through the sky, and the small fire that my chosen 6 had created to indicate where I could find them. At that moment I knew that every one of the elements were part of my will and that I could use to further my journey to achieve my destiny. The old sage said as he took a few extra deep breaths to calm his heart rate, before speaking again, knowing that what he had to say next was both saddening to him and painful to relive by thinking about it. Once back with my chosen 6, they all noticed my eyes have changed, and I gave a very short answer to saying it was Kami-sama's will for my eyes to change this way, and told them that I would give them a better answer once we did as instructed by our Creator. My followers, and I did as I told and prepared the circle which Cammie told me from the air around me as I was leaving my starry landscape mind. The sage started but stopped to adjust his old and dying body before continuing. When they were meditation in the circle around me, and I did as I was instructed, the allotted hour had come to pass. At the very same moment of the last minute of the hour, all of their eyes sprang forward with understanding and knowledge of what they must do. What I didn't know was that they were told and that they had an extra purpose now, one which I wouldn't be known of until my battle with the Jubi. Flashback. The sage's 6 followers, all while surrounding the sage with their eyes closed, found themselves in the same starry landscape that the sage had been in when he had spoke to Cammie. Each of them, looking around to see what was going on, stopped examining the area around them when their eyes met the figure of a woman with white hair. She spoke up to them. "You 6 chosen ones shall protect my Sage of 6 Paths with your lives, and are bound to do so until the light fades from your eyes, and your bodies return to the earth. Don't not be afraid, my children, as for you 6 are special to me, and as such when you pass away from this world you shall forever be by my side, watching the world below with smiles on your faces, as to what it has become from the sacrifices of your lives. There will be a great evil in the world within the century of your lifetime, and when this great evil comes you 6 will die in the battle that rages. When that battle happens, remember my words to the fullest of what your roles are in your lives. Protect the Sage of 6 Paths. He may be the strongest alive, but he is also still human, and he will need to be shown the other sides of what it means to be the chosen one of this world, and through you 6 passing that will come to be." Cammie explained to the 6 followers that would be known as the Sage's 6 Paths. Flashback end. After my 6 paths awakened their gifts, when their eyes opened, we set out once again, reaching farther east, spreading Nishu to all those who would listen and take to heart. The old sage said before reaching for a glass of water that was on his beside table, and took a drink with shaky arms. Taking a drink and setting the glass back down to where it once was, the sage continued on with his tale. 5 years after the awakening of all our gifts from Cammie, that we were faced with our biggest threat to in which I was teaching unto this world. The great and all-powerful Jubi, the guardian of the world that kept mankind in check for when they rose up and tried to take over the world. On that 5th year we were locked in battle with the Jubi for what seemed an eternity. For only our group of 7 could sense where the Jubi was. It wasn't very difficult to find it, but stopping its rampaging was a completely different matter at hand. People all across the lands were scattering to avoid the beast that was going to eliminate them all. After noticing myself and my 6 paths, they all started gathering around where the 7 of us were. No longer afraid of the beast before them, almost as if the masses found comfort in our appearance, and looked to us with hopeful eyes, watching as the 7 of Kami's chosen ones stepped forward to stop this terrible beast. Like us 7 that could sense the Jubi could sense us as well, and upon it sensing our arrival, it stopped all of its rampaging and killing, and turned its attention solely on us. None of the people present, nor any of my 6 paths, or myself could ever have thought what happened next. The Jubi spoke in a massive booming voice. May the chosen one step forward so that I may cleanse this world of its arrogance. The sage tried speaking loudly to make what he was trying to portray to his youngest child easier to understand, but trying to yell caused him to once again start coughing violently, and beckoning for the glass of water once again. Receiving the glass of water from his youngest child, and drinking it once more, the sage continues his story after calming himself back down. It may have only been one sentence, but that one sentence was all it needed to say for us 7 to know what was going to and need to happen. The Jubi needed to be dealt with. When the battle started, and the battle of wills between us 7 raged against the massive guardian of the world, we all felt something inside of us stirring. The sage said, letting his son ingrain his words into his memory. The feelings inside of us propelled our attacks on the guardian even harder, inflicting whatever damage we could on the beast, slowly turning the tides of the battle for that of mankind. Minutes became hours, and hours became days, and as the battle raged on, animals summoned struggled to break through the Jubi's defenses, kunai were raining down on the guardian, swords were being slashed expertly, trying to inflict any critical damage possible, and powerful jutsus alike being thrown at the beast in rapid succession in hopes to inflict mass damage. The sage paused, getting to the part that sat in his heart, whenever his mind brought him back to these memories. It wasn't until the 8th day that we suffered our first loss. The animal path was running low on chakra, and with her summoning so many summons and using whatever energy she had left for sword attacks, she found herself on her last legs of her life. Planning her next strike, she went in with the only thing she had left, and went to slash at the beast once again, but only this time the beast simply threw one of its arms in her direction and slammed her to the ground, effectively killing her. The sage said quietly. On the 10th day of the battle we lost 2 more. The Preta path and Naraka path were getting in the same position that the animal path was put in 2 days ago. They were trying to tag team the Jubi, using diversion attacks for the others to use as diversions. Using their respected gifts from Kami whenever they could, they quickly found themselves in a tight spot, knowing that they were essentially the defenses and last hope of the group. They turned back to set their sights on the others, and as they were about to try and reach to the others, they heard the Jubi's roar and looked back to see an oncoming attack set on ending their lives. And noticing the speed of the attack and the lack of chakra and energy to escape the attack, they said a silent prayer wishing for my victory in the end and let their deaths come to them. The sage said in the same quiet, saddened voice as small tears were building up in his soft lavender Rinnegan eyes. On the 13th day we lost 2 more. The Azura path and the human path were the next to fall to the Jubi. After 13 days of constant battle they were bloodied, bruised, and sleep deprived, and in the afternoon of the 13th day the human path collapsed from chakra exhaustion, essentially stopping his heart. The human path, however, seeing his comrade and friend collapse not too far away from him, ran to his side to see if he could help him, but before he could even reach his comrade he was unfortunately caught in one of the Jubi's smaller Baijudama that it fired to for sure take out the Azura. With no time to block or escape, the smaller Baijudama slammed into both of them, killing the human path, and launching both of the recently fallen away from where they once were, and throwing them harshly to the ground. He finished, clearing his throat and trying to control his emotions over never forgetting the memories of his fallen closest friends. On the 14th day of the battle only I and the Deva path stood against the beast. Deva path went in for another attack using his gravitation gift from Kami, trying to throw a giant piece of a cliff side that had fallen during the battle, and it was quickly apparent to me that he was not going to last much longer, as he was shaking uncontrollably while trying to muster up the amount of chakra to lift and propel the giant stone to their foe. With that thought crossing my mind, the Deva path's block of stone was batted down from the air. With the Deva path out of chakra, he quickly grabbed his sword, tightening his grip, and charged the beast for an aerial attack, but was quickly swatted down for not having the speed to get past the Jubi's defenses. Hitting the ground hard from the Jubi's counterattack, creating a small crater in the ground, I rushed over to him quickly to see if I could heal him in any way, but when I came to his aid I saw death quickly approaching him. At his side he turned his head to me and said in a very quick voice. The sage said with a choked-up voice with tears welling up in his eyes. Fear not, my friend, for as this was our duty and role to aid and protect you in this battle. This battle is Kami's test for you to overcome, and once you do, the world will be in a new age. Farewell, my friend. The sage finished with the tears that were welling up in his eyes rolling down his aged face, showing his youngest son just how hard that his father took the deaths of his 6 closest friends. Drying his eyes and clearing his throat once more, the sage muttered a small apology for letting his emotions get the better of him in his last days in the world. I'm sorry, my son, I know I do not have much time left for this world, but it still pains me that my closest companions left this world so much earlier than I will. Letting out a sigh, the father of the young man finished. Let us continue on with the story. Neither of us moving for what felt like an eternity. I was stricken by every kind of emotion and feeling a person could feel. I was stricken by sadness from my closest friends' deaths. I was angry at myself for not being able to protect them. I was on the verge of giving up and losing all hope at winning this battle because on the inside, I was simply hurting and torn apart. My gifted eyes fell to the ground as I felt the tears slowly welling up in my eyes and slowly rolled down my cheeks. And with a grief-stricken heart I looked around the battlefield and let my tear-filled eyes look upon my fallen closest comrades and friends in what I felt as to be my last moment in life. When my eyes came back to where the Deva path laid, I wiped the tears from my face and looked to the ground. I felt what I thought at first was more tears. Something felt off. It felt as if my eyes were leaking power right out of my eyes in liquid form. I put my hand to my face once again and gently touched the right side of my face and saw that blood was in fact falling from my eyes. At the realization, something changed within me to where my head began to hurt and my mind started getting fuzzy. My eyes hurt. They started hurting so bad I thought I was going to die from the pain alone. I closed my eyes, trying to let either the attack of the Jew become and end my life, or trying to let the pain dull enough to where I could fight just a little bit longer. As my eyes were closed, and all seemed black, I started seeing in my closed eyelids what seemed to be a reflection of my eyes. My lavender-purple eyes with 6 black rings around the pupil. Then something else happened to them. The usual lavender color of my eyes turned blood red, and slowly I saw tones appear on the rings of my eyes. The sage said in a soft voice. As they appeared, I counted 10 of them when they slowly stopped forming. I was confused by this, but when I tried to think about what they meant, I was asked this question from seemingly nowhere. Flashback. A shadowy figure appeared before the emotional sage, filled with despair, and spoke to him. Do you wish to fight? Or do you simply wish to let all of these people in the world die because you were too grief-stricken by your friends' deaths that you couldn't fight back? Whatever Kami ever sees in you, I have no clue, because what I see is just pathetic. Why do you even try? Why do you even care? Why is it that you, one lowly human being, think that you could stand up against the guardian of the earth? The figure questioned. Startled by all the yelling that was going on in his head, the sage whispered back. Because it is my destiny to show true peace, and how to achieve it in this world, the sage answered. The voice of the shadowy figure then started laughing harshly at the sage's words, and then spoke out. How can you ever even bring yourself to say that when you are in this pitiful state? You have no conviction in your words like you had before this. You have no desire to fight for this world anymore. So let me ask you this. One time, and one time only before it all ends, what are you going to do? The figure asked harshly. The sage responded his answer in a quiet voice, but it seemed the figure within the room with the sage didn't hear his answer. What was that? The figure asked in a demanding voice. Once again the sage spoke his answer in a softer voice, but a little louder. I asked you a question, human. Now answer me right now. The figure screamed at the sage, who was startled by the figure's tone of voice. The sage, snapping his head up, and with his eyes directly bored into where he thought that the voice of the figure coming from, he saw a figure. To the sage, the only way he could describe the shadowy figure that took on a form in front of him was by only saying that it was that of a true demon, but this demon had a human male's body, black spiked hair that in the front looked like 2 horns while the rest just went wild down past his shoulders, and he was dressed in what seemed to be similar attire to the high-collared haori he wore. Except he saw he had a glowing red necklace that had 10 red tomes on it. But the most noticeable feature about this dark-shaded figure was that of his eyes. They were so similar to my own, except they were not the lavender-colored eyes with 6 black rings in them. They were blood red, with 6 rings in them with 10 tomes evenly placed within the rings of the eyes. As the sage's eyes were still locked on figure's eyes, he screamed back to the figure before him. I said I'm going to fight. I am going to win. And I will bring about what I was destined to do. With the sage's answer clearly out in the open, the demon showed a smirk on his shadowed face. Then in his confusion of the demon's smirk, the demon before him stepped forward, and somehow the shadowed figure lit up, and before the sage was none other than himself. With the smirk still ever present as he held his fist out forward, as if asking the sage to do the same. Acting on instinct, the sage raised his fist to the figure before him in a similar fashion a few inches away from his. As he stretched his fist forward to the figures, their knuckles tapped together. Then the demon spoke to the sage in a calm voice very similar to my own. I am but a reflection of you. I feel just as you do, and even now as you're hurting, I am as well. I was sent to you by Yami himself to aid you in your journey. I was told that when I came before you, you would be able to fight with not only a stronger resolve to fight for this world, but with a better understanding of the balance of life and death, just as the gift Kami-sama herself gave you. The reflective figure of the sage explained. The reflective sage put his other hand to his face, and pointed to his eyes, and went on to say, My eyes that are similar to yours are a clue of sorts to what you need to do out there. The red of my eyes represents the bloodlust that I feel. I know that we want peace, but this is a side effect from the event that you are facing right now. The 10 tomes represents what is within myself. To be like me, you need to do this. With that, he passed along a thought to the sage's head, and instructions for what to do when he goes back to the battlefield with the Jubi. The sage nodded his head to his reflective self and responded, I thank you for getting me past my grief, and pass along my thanks to Yami-sama. The sage saw him nod his head, and with that the world blurred back to the battle with the Jubi. Flashback end. With one deep breath I stood straight, and flew through hand signs until I stopped at the last one of the chain, and with it I raced forward to the Jubi at a speed it hadn't expected. Stopping for a moment to take a few more shaky breaths of air before starting again, the sage started speaking once more, nearing the end of his tale. Flashback. As golden chains of chakra erupted around the battlefield, wrapping around the Jubi's massive body. The golden chains slammed the guardian down to the ground hard. Before the sage closed in on the Jubi with the last part of his attack in his head already, the sage set forth, racing through a number of hand signs again at a quick pace yet again, preparing for the do or die moment. Everything rested on his will to live on and protect the world from the massive beast before him. Holding his last hand sign with just his left hand, and with his right hand the sage struck forward in an open palm with a red and black mist like glow covering it, and slammed his palm onto the body of the Jubi, and yelled out, Sage Arts, 6 Paths 8-Prong Elemental Seal. With an intricate pattern quickly spreading outwards on the Jubi's body from the sage's outstretched hand. The Jubi started glowing momentarily before slowly being drawn into the sage's body. Flashback end. With my attack called out, the Jubi let out a monstrous roar of protest that lasted until it was sucked in through my palm that was against its body. As the last of the Jubi was gone, I looked down at my open bloodied Haori, and when my eyes rested upon my stomach I saw the seal that I placed upon myself. I knew that by doing this I was showing the world that I was sacrificing my life as just that of a gifted human, to that of a Jinchuriki. After the battle was over, everyone saw me as the savior of the world, and with that people all over showed interest in following the ways of Nishu. The sage said quietly. My eyes stayed the same lavender color, and the 6 rings stayed the same, but I figured out whenever I call upon the power of the Jubi within me, my eyes turn into that of what my reflection self had. The power that went through my body when I called upon the Jubi's chakra was unbelievable, and couldn't be put in proper words to justify the feeling it gave me. All I knew for certain that a power of such great magnitude should never grace the lands of mankind ever again. The old and dying sage said in a serious tone. After time the lands started grasping Nishu, and it became part of the norm. The way of the ninjas was coming into the world in strive, and for that I was happy. It wasn't until much later in my life Kami had come to me again while I was meditating. She said for me to pass this unto my youngest son while on my deathbed, and to follow through with what she had instructed me to do. I shall now pass this on to you. She said. When one looks upon the aspects of why thy's life came to be, and thy's purpose in this world while in deep meditation, while holding 9 seek out the name of 9 as well as his fist. Only when thou has received 9's name and fist may the soul of thee understand the 2 questions thou has come to ask oneself. Thou will receive the answers thou is seeking. With the answers a change will occur both in self and upon the world. The sage smiled after finally being able to complete Kami's last request for him. And that, my son, is how my life came to pass, but for my life is just a part of the overall perspective of things. There is more in which I need to tell you before I pass. It is about the sage of time. But for now, my child, let me rest, for I need to save what little strength I have left to tell you the rest before I leave this world. Fear not, because I know without a doubt that tomorrow is my last day in this world. The sage said with a small smile on his face to his youngest son. The sage's youngest son bowed deeply to his father, and bid him farewell for the night, believing his wise old father's words, and said that he would see him in the morning to finish their conversation. As the youngest son left his father's bedside, he put everything his father had said to him permanently into his mind so that he may remember it when he had the chance to write everything down on a large scroll for future generations after him to learn from. But for now he was tired, and sleep was the first thing that came to his mind as he walked to a spare guest room in his father's house. The next morning. The beautiful sun rose above the mountains early the next morning, and with it the youngest son of the great sage, prepared himself for his father's next story that he was inheriting. Preparing a small breakfast for his father, the son brought the food as well as a glass of water with him to his father's room. When he reached the door to his father's room, he knocked politely, and asked permission to enter. Hearing his father's voice granting him permission to enter, he opened the door, and went to resume his position at his father's side same as the night prior. "Good morning, my child." The old sage smiled weakly. "Good morning, father. I brought you some breakfast before you pick up where we left off," the son said in a soft, kind voice. "Thank you, my child. Please set it on the table over there. I will eat it after I have finished the last part of your inheritance," the sage said with a smile on his face. "I hope you are ready for me to begin, my son. I believe my time is coming soon, so let us begin right away," the sage informed. "I am ready, father, go ahead," the son spoke while nodding his head for his father to begin. Closing his tired and baggy eyes, while taking a slowly drawn-in breath of clean air, the dying savior of the world prepared himself for the last bit of what he wanted to pass down onto his youngest son. "When I was a young man of the age of 13, I was thrown into the chaos of this world of warring lands," the sage started. "My mother and father had both been killed when a large group of bandits came over to our peaceful farming village, killing all of those in their way, and stole whatever they desired," the sage explained before taking in another jagged breath of air, so that he may continue. "My older brother, the only blood sibling I ever had in my life, and I fled from our family's small farmhouse after our parents ordered us to run as fast and as far away from the village as we could, but they couldn't say anything else to my brother and I, because a few bandits broke into our home and killed them immediately after breaking in," the sage said with a sad frown gracing his face while thinking about the haunting memory that has plagued his wise old mind ever since it had happened. "My brother and I ran as fast as we could away from our home village, heading towards a not too nearby small fishing village. When we reached the small fishing village a couple days later, we searched for a place to stay in until we could gather a plan on what we would do now that everything we had known to love had been taken away from us. After sleeping outside for a couple of nights, we found by a very kind monk who took one look at our battered clothes and tired eye, and asked us what our story was behind our current situation. After explaining to the monk that our village had been invaded by bandits, and that everyone we knew was either killed or sold into slavery, the monk told us that we were welcome to stay at his small temple until we had the means to survive on our own," the sage finished with a scratchy voice. "Would you please hand me the glass of water, my son?" the sage asked politely. "Of course, father," the son replied, while reaching for the glass of water and handing it to him. Drinking the glass of water slowly, the sage pulled the glass away from his lips and weakly held the glass as far out from his body as he could manage. His son, seeing his father's already deteriorating strength disappearing, swiftly reached of the bed that his dying father was laying on and grabbed the glass. "Thank you," the sage said with a small smile. "It seems my time is drawing nearer as we speak. I need to finish this quickly," the sage said with his smile still on his face. 4 months had passed since the death of our parents and arrival of the small fishing village, and it was my brother's 16th birthday. I noticed he was acting strangely ever since our parents were killed, but I knew that like myself he was hurting inside even worse. My brother had lost the love of his life when the bandits attacked our home village. My brother spent as much time with his love as he could, from the time they were both 12, and with him losing not only our parents but his love as well completely devastated him," the sage explained sadly, while thinking about his brother. 2 days after we arrived in the small fishing village, and began living at the kind monk's temple, my brother told me that he was going to be gone for a few days. After he had left and returned back, my brother was forever a changed person. I tried to approach him and asked him what was on his mind, but whenever I had asked him what was on his mind, he said for me to not worry about him, and that he was fine, the sage said with the same sad look in his eyes. A couple days later, my brother's odd behavior got worse as he disappeared with no indication of where he went. A day after he had disappeared, he came back to the fishing village and told me that he had to leave me for now. Before he left, he said to me, "I am truly sorry that I have to leave you to this world and its problems to fix, for as Kami has whispered unto my ears what I need to do for this world, but know that for I shall return a generation before you do again, and that I will always love you, my Ototo." With his last words spoken, he was engulfed in a black and red light, the black outlining the red while swirling around each other almost as if the colors were dancing with each other. As the light intensified, my brother started fading from my sights, with a smile on his face as he slowly said, "See you soon, Ototo." What I saw before he completely disappeared completely confused me, as he no longer looked like my older brother. Gone was his usual red hair, and dark blue, almost violet-colored eyes that our family shared. As he faded away to wherever he went, I saw that he had black spiky hair, and his eyes were that of the purest sapphire. It wasn't until I reached the age of 16 did I gain any insight on what happened to my brother. The sage explained to his youngest son. Nobody that I spoke to knew anything, or even knew that my brother went missing. But in my 16th year of life, a change began within me. The sage started but was interrupted by his son. A change, father? His son asked. Yes, my child, now let me continue, please. The sage spoke, wishing for no more interruptions. I woke up on the day of my birth just as any other, and went into the village. Only to see everyone in the village looking at me skeptically, almost as if afraid to find out if I was an enemy or an ally. I ignored the looks of the people around me, and found one of my friends sitting at a bench outside of a small hut. When I approached him and asked him how he was doing, he looked me dead in the eye, and asked how I knew his name and what I wanted. This confused me to no end, so I quickly lost my temper and yelled at him like I always did in my times of my youth. Until my ranting was over, he realized it really was me, but when I asked him how could he forget me since we've been friends for a few months now, he simply pointed to the window of the hut and told me to look at it. Just to amuse him, I went to the window to take a look at my reflection, and upon seeing my reflection I did what I would always do. I freaked out. Gone was my vibrant red spiky hair, and dark bluish eyes that everyone knew me by. But instead I had black spiky hair, and sapphire blue eyes that shined in the sunlight. The old sage stopped his story when his youngest asked him a question. Father, I never knew you originally had blue eyes? His son asked curiously. The old sage weakly chuckled at his mental wish to not be interrupted, but smiled nonetheless. Yes, I had blue eyes up until my first trial Kami had set forth for me to accomplish. Now let us begin once more, the sage said, answering his son's question. Within a minute or so of panic, I quickly thought upon what happened to me, and remembered my older brother fading into that strange light, as well as what he looked like as he faded away. I remember he had the same black hair, and the same sapphire eyes that I have now. That very night, as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a soft female voice whispering for me to listen to her. Thinking that I was dreaming, I decided to go along with it, and so I listened to the soft voice. The sage started but stopped after coughing violently a few times. After his coughing fit ended, the sage looked to his son weakly, and put his small smile back onto his face once more. My apologies, where was I? The sage said, almost forgetting where he had left off. Ah yes, the sage started up again. The voice then told me that the sage of 6 paths must lay the paving stones for true peace for the world in his first lifetime. And that in the time the sage of 6 paths' first life, the sage of time will be training and preparing in the afterlife for what his destiny entails. The voice then said that the sage of time has already ventured to the afterlife 3 years ago, and shall be reborn a generation before the sage of 6 paths' second life. The sage finished with his thoughts wandering from within his mind. Even I don't fully understand what had happened to my brother, but I have the feeling that I shall know when the time is right. The sage spoke, saying his thoughts aloud to his son. I know without a doubt that in some way my brother is the sage of time, and that I shall meet him in another lifetime. I also know that this story is just as important as the first, my child, so remember it as well. The sage finished while turning to look back at his son before coughing violently once again, while putting his hand to his mouth to cover it. When the sage removed his hand, he saw that he had been coughing up small amounts of blood. Knowing that his time was very limited now, the sage decided that it was time for his to get his other sons and say their final goodbyes. That is the end of the second story, my child, and with it I hope you hold both of them close to your heart, the sage said with a smile. Also be sure to pass on both of these stories from my life onto your children, and your children's children, for it will be important for them to know, the sage explained, before his smile slowly shifted into a saddened one. I sense the feelings your brothers hold. Your oldest brother desires power, your second oldest brother desires protection, but you alone desire something greater. True peace to fall upon the lands, just as I did, the sage said slowly, letting his smile return to his face. For that is why I have chosen you to be my successor. Do not speak of this to anyone, but your successor on your deathbed, as I do not want my children fighting one another, and ruining the small amount of peace I have created. The sage finished exhaling the breath of air that he had kept in his lungs. Now, my child, fetch your brothers, as I feel the time is close for me to close my eyes for good, the sage said sadly, but with a smile still on his face. His youngest got off his knees, and bowed deeply to his father, and set out to retrieve his 2 brothers. When all 3 of them returned, they all said their final goodbyes to their father for the last time. As the light from the eyes of a legend finally faded away, the 3 brothers all smiled at their father, for he had closed his eyes, and embraced death peacefully with a smile on his face. Inside of Yuzu, a 16-year-old young man with the name of Kensei Uzumaki, oldest child to the current head of the Uzumaki clan and heir of the clan, laid face down, passed out, drooling in his bed, dreaming about his life. In this dream he thought about it all in a nutshell. He thought about his training, his parents, his sister, if he'd ever find love in this world, and the last thing, which was what was in store for his life. In his dreaming state he felt a calm and peacefulness he never experienced before in his 16 years of life, and he was enjoying the relaxing state he was in. With the thoughts and imaginary images flowing through his mind, he let his peaceful slumber continue on. As what Kensei expected to be morning, when he woke up, he rose from his bed after hearing his mother calling for him to come down in an obviously irritated voice. Stretching his 5 feet 11 inches very toned and muscular body and rubbing the crusted residue from his sleep out of his eyes, he haphazardly put on his shinobi gear consisting of a black v-neck cut muscle shirt exposing his very defined pecs, suggestion to all the females who saw him that the rest of his body was in fact just as defined, with fishnet armor beneath it. Black umbu-style pants that went down to his ankles, and black ninja sandals, as well as a gray chunin flak jacket with the Uzumaki family crest on the back. Strapping his katana to his side, he turned to leave his room, but in his zombified state forgot something. Spinning himself around, he went to grab his kunai and shuriken pouches he left on the nightstand next to his bed. After strapping them to his leg and belt, he turned and headed to the door, but once again stopped before reaching the knob. He muttered a small curse under his breath and turned around again to grab his whirlpool forehead protector. Walking over and grabbing it on the nightstand his kunai and shuriken pouches were at, he once again turned around to head for the door. Stopping before reaching the door, he turned to his left. Turning to face the mirror, he figured he better inspect himself just to make sure he didn't look like he was sleeping, and once again he didn't want to hear his mother go on and on about how he shouldn't be so lazy and sleep in. Upon looking at the mirror, he ran his fingers through his spiky black hair that went wildly everywhere. Wait. What the fuck? Kensei screamed out, which scared all the birds sitting atop of any of his family's clan compound's roofs, all flying away in a panic state of fear. Kensei, seeing his hair black, freaked him the hell out, and now he was pretty sure his parents downstairs knows something is up with him. Trying to calm himself down, he took a deep breath, straightened out his clothes a bit, and put his whirlpool forehead protector around his head, letting the newly discovered black-haired bangs drop in front of it, before heading out of his room and down the stairs. As he was about to reach the bottom of the stairs, he heard his parents in a heated discussion about his sister. He had forgotten that his younger sister had left for Konoha late last night for some reason, and was told she was going to be gone for a while. Something along the lines of a diplomatic mission, or something. Kensei knew something was up about the whole deal with this younger sister because, well, who the hell sends a 12, almost 13-year-old girl not even halfway done with her begging ninja training on a diplomatic mission? Kensei hounded his father about more details pertaining his sister and her departing of Yuzu, but got nowhere. The only thing Kensei could think of was that it was an arranged political marriage, and that did not sit well with him, so he asked his father if that was the case. His father said it was nothing of the sorts, and that Kensei would be made aware of his sister's departure at a later time, ending the discussion. Kensei, sighing to himself, shakes the thoughts of his sister from his mind, and stilling his nerves of his earlier outburst from his surprise this morning in his room, and entered the kitchen. Making a bowl of cereal, and sitting down at the table, he began to eat his food. His parents, seeing their son enter the kitchen, stopped their discussion, and looked at their son with an eyebrow raised on each of them. What? Something on my face? Kensei growled at them, with a glare. It was Kensei's father who spoke first. Something of the sort. What's up with the hair? Ha! Kensei, getting a tick mark on his forehead, was about to snap at his father, but he saw his mother elbow his father in the gut for laughing before knowing what happened, effectively knocking the wind out of the powerful clan head. His mother then looked at Kensei and asked the same question, but in a more sincere way. What, your father? She gave his father a glare, but his father looks away innocently to avoid it. Means to say is, why is your hair black, Kensei? Kensei stopped eating and quickly chewed his food so that he can swallow it, and thought about it for a few seconds. I guess Kushina gave me a going-away present? You know how we are with each other, always pranking somebody, he said with a shrug of his shoulders. Readying his spoon, he resumed his attack on his breakfast once again. Kensei's mother and father gave each other a look to one another before looking back at him. Kensei once again stopped eating, not hearing anything from the two, and looked up to his parents once more. He then noticed his mother's eyes, and knew something bad was going to happen. Kensei, Kushina-chan left 2.5 days ago also. She then took a deep breath. How can you freaking sleep that goddamned long? Do you know how irresponsible it is for a young man, no less a chunin, to be so damned lazy? I swear you're going to be mistaken as dead or a coma victim sooner or later. After that, their family's famous short tempers flared up between Kensei's and his mother once again. Kensei hated being right sometimes, God mom, how am I supposed to know that I slept for that long? I was asleep. After his outburst, Kensei quickly shut his mouth, noticing that his parents were looking at him with wide eyes as if he grew a second head or something. Ugh, now what is it? Not getting an answer from them, after a few seconds he slammed his fist to the table. I said, what is it you are gawking at, damn it? With that last outburst, his father quickly snapped out of his shock and looked at Kensei in what Kensei always called his father's professional mode. The look of a man who had seen and experienced many things, and not a lot of them pleasant. Quickly calming his temper down, Kensei did not want to get on his father's bad side right now. Kensei's father was a great man. He was fun and always joking around, always willing to listen, and always supportive of his two children. But at the same time, Kensei's father was also the head of the Uzumaki clan, and one does not become the head just by being fun. His father was a seriously powerful ninja, up there on the level of the Kages of the elemental nations. While Yuzu did not have exactly a Kage for leadership. Yuzu was led by the daimyo of the country that handled the matters of politics, while the head of the Uzumaki clan handled the military affairs, so in a sense each head of the Uzumaki clan was the unofficial Uzukage. Both leaders of which worked together in a great partnership of respect for one another, striving for the same goals. Backed with a small council of veteran shinobi of Yuzu, the country of Yuzu was always looking out for the best interest of its people and the best way to handle any situation without causing conflict with the other nations. Kensei's father, however, was a little different than past Uzumaki clan heads. He alone fought in many major battles in the days leading up to his taking over the clan, and over those years of battling he became feared by all who were unfortunate to meet him on the battlefield. So in that sense, a lot of people wouldn't want to get on his bad side for any reason. It was a shock for Kensei there for a second, remembering that this wasn't his goofy, funny, laid-back father standing before him in the kitchen who was cracking up and laughing at him. This was his clan's leader, and right now he demanded to be respected, and to be answered when he asked a question. Kensei stared straight into the eyes of his father, waiting for what he had to say. He then heard him say in a flat and serious voice, Kensei, you need to be honest with me right now, because depending on what you remember, and what you know, will determine what's going on right now. His father asked seriously. Giving his father an odd look with his right eyebrow cocked, he asked Kensei something else. What is the last thing you remember before going to bed? Thinking about it for a few seconds, Kensei thought about his response to his father. Honestly, nothing. I got back from that C-rank bodyguard mission to Taki the night, before Kushina-ne left for Konoha. After spending the ride of the night with you guys, and saying goodbye to Kushina-ne, I just went to my room and passed out. It had been a long day, so I instantly was out like a light, smiling like an idiot. While scratching the back of his head for a few seconds, he remembered something else. But when I was sleeping, I felt a calm and peacefulness I've never felt before, and in my dreams I was thinking about a lot of things, really, like training in our clan's ways to take over for you and Mother Kushina-ne, if I'll ever find the girl for me, and I was thinking about what my life had in store for me. That's about all I can remember. Kensei finished explaining. Hearing his father sigh, Kensei was about to ask what's wrong with his father, but his father cut him off before he could say anything. Kensei, why I'm asking you this is because Kushina-chan not only left before you fell asleep disproving your she pranked you before she left theory, but that also in your little he did come back to your mother your hair filled with chakra, making it grow out a bit longer. His father informed. Touching the back of his head, Kensei felt his hair, and noticed that it did indeed grow an inch or so longer. Before he could think too long, Kensei's father spoke again. And that's not all. Your hair only filled with chakra for a couple seconds, but it was a chakra signature different than your own, but at the same time similar. But what was completely off was your eyes. They are bright sapphire blue right now, and while you were yelling they started glowing. Another thing is that you mentioned that you have never felt so peaceful in your dreamlike state, which makes me think that you perhaps found a way to find the inner calm of your soul like we find in ourselves while in deep meditation. Which would be the reason why you were sleeping for so long, Kensei's father said, pausing for a moment to let his words sink in. A few seconds passed by, and Kensei and his father remained in thought, while his mother just stayed silent, not wanting to get in the middle of her husband and her son's discussion. Kensei, you're lucky that I am the head of the clan right now, and that you will be my successor. If this wasn't the case, I'd be completely lost in this matter as you are now, but seeing how that is not the case, I know more of what's going on and what's going to happen, Kensei's father said, slightly confusing the boy. Not knowing where this was going, Kensei figured it was best to just let his father continue on. Before Kensei's father could speak, the earth shook, and chakra signatures all over the place became present. Through his countless battles and wars, Kensei's father quickly ordered his wife to go to the village and round up as many civilians she could find and take them to the evacuation tunnels so they can escape Yuzu. Turning to his son, he called out, Kensei, follow me closely. Do not break your concentration while we are running. With that, the family bolted out of their home and raced to their clan's compound. Once outside, everyone within the Uzumaki compound were gathered in their training areas, spread out in previously assembled groups, ready to be given orders to take action in case of emergency situations such as this. Kensei's father stood before them all, with Kensei himself standing at his father's side. Looking at his father from the corner of his eyes, he saw his father draw in a deep breath. It seems that my greatest fears have come to pass, my brothers and sisters. I have hoped that this situation would have never come, but it seems that our efforts have been all for naught. For it seems that Kumo has gathered a few nations to join them in our destruction. The leader of the Uzumaki clan yelled out to the crowd. Gasps rang out throughout the training fields after the crowd of Uzumakis heard the news. I know your fears. But remember that we of the Uzumaki clan have a duty to uphold, and we must protect all civilians, and get them to the evacuation tunnels before we fully engage the enemies. Through our preparations, you all have been assembled into groups of 4, each group with 2 specialists in offensive attacks, a specialist in combat fuinjutsu, and a medical specialist. After the civilians have been escorted out of the village, each group of 4 shall engage the enemies. Remember, this is an act of all-out war, and an attack on our home shall be dealt with in the most brutal of ways. Take no prisoners, and kill all who are trying to destroy our home. Now go! Kensei's father ordered. Immediately after his father gave the order, everyone in the training fields vanished to escort the civilians away. Kensei. His father, getting Kensei's attention, turned to his father. Kensei, my son, this shall be your first war you take part in, and while I have the utmost faith in your skills as a shinobi, I can only worry about you as my son and heir. You must follow me, but before we go to the front lines, there is something we must do beforehand. With that, Kensei and his father vanished to his father's office. Once arriving in his father's office, Kensei spoke up, needing to know what was going on. Father, what is it that we must do that is more important than defending our homes? With all of our clan's strength, and the other clans making up Yuzu, we shouldn't have any problems with the invading countries. Kensei asked frantically, but seeing his father's face, he quickly regrets speaking out of line as well as his outburst. Hanging his head in shame, he mutters a quick apology to his father. Kensei, we are here right now before the battle because this is more important than us going to the front lines, his father said in a neutral voice. Kensei raised his head and looked on in confusion at his father's words. What we must do now is the ceremony of passing power to the current clan head of the Uzumaki to the next. Now, before you interrupt me with endless questions, remember we are needed elsewhere, and I as your clan leader, and most importantly as your father, know this is best right now, the red-haired man said. Taking a deep breath, his father spoke. For Yuzu will fall, but we will not fall easily, Kensei father said sadly. Kensei nodded his head in acceptance to the words the man before him spoke, and Kensei waited for what was next. In your upbringing as my heir, you have been slowly learning what it means to be the next clan head, as well as a few of the minor secrets that being a clan head entails. Now you shall receive your inheritance right now and title of the next Uzumaki clan head from me. Bring forth your fist in front of you, my son, father instructed. Kensei slowly did as instructed, and when the action was complete, his father did the same while gently bumping into his fist. When their fists connected, Kensei was given a short instruction on what to do next before Kensei could really get too deep in thought. Kensei, the connection of fists between present and future clan heads of the Uzumaki has been a ceremony of sorts for all of the clan heads since the time of the Sage of Six Paths, and one that must not be forgotten. Nodding his head, Kensei gave his father all he needed to continue. There is a stone tile that blends in with the rest of the floor, 2 stones south directly of the center of my desk, and 1 stone to the east of those. The stone you are looking for can only be moved by having our blood drop upon it, allowing it to be lifted. Below that you will find that one of our clan's Kekugenkai is blocking what you seek. You will know what to do when you see them, his father continued. With that said, a small spark of electricity felt as if it came from Kensei's father to his fist, and with that spark came the sudden knowledge of how to move the chains. Now my son, we are running short on time, so I must make this quick. As part of you being the new clan head, you are to receive the 2 stories that have been passed down from our great ancestor, the first Uzumaki. You must read them, and upon reading them you shall start to understand why you look the way you do now. For I know without a doubt you are the Sage of Time Reborn, Kensei's father said in a serious tone and way about to continue, but Kensei quickly interrupted his father after hearing that. What the hell are you talking about? Sage of Time? What kind of crap is that? Kensei's father watched as his son blew up at the stress of emotions spewing forward out of him, and just merely laughed. Ha ha ha, you really have no clue as to what's happening, and that's all understandable. But if only you could see what you look like when you have so many emotions running through you, you would understand that you are indeed very special. If you were about to attack me looking like that, I may be just a little scared. Just a little. His father said the last part with a smirk. Now calm down and head for the lower office, find the stone and complete the ceremony. This last part is for you to do alone, which is good because I must leave now and help defend our home. Kensei stared at his father as he turned away preparing to leave, but Kensei stopped him before he could leave. Why do I have the feeling I won't see you ever again, father? Kensei asked sadly, letting his eyes drop to the floor. Why is it that I feel as if I am going to be left all alone? Why is it that the world can't live in peace and forget their stupid petty greed and jealousy? What can I do if you all are gone? I'm not ready for this. I don't think I ever can be. Don't make me do this, Father Kensei said in a panicked voice, and fell to his knees, and started breathing heavily and shaking slightly. Seeing his son in such a state tore at his father's heart. Turning around, he walked over to his son and knelt down, and brought him to his chest and wrapped his arms around his son. I can't answer all of your questions, Kensei, but you will never be alone. You will have all of us in your hearts forever. You can never cut the bonds you have made in your life, and while losing us will hurt, you must be strong and hold your head up high, chest outwards, eyes bored into the direction of the world in defiance, and help proudly carry on our bloodline. There will be another Uzumaki, and you be at his side soon enough. The two of you will show the world that the Uzumaki never can truly die. Yuzu can be rebuilt, and its people will come back when its two remaining Uzumaki survivors return, to reclaim their homeland once more. Kensei father spoke softly. Noticing Kensei relax a bit, and calm his breathing down, Kensei's father stood back up, and gave his last order to his beloved son. Now go and read the stories of the past, and help bring forth a great change in this world. And don't forget to give your mother, and I lots of grandchildren. With that said, his father left in his shunshin with a large smile on his face heading towards the battlefield. Wiping his tears from his eyes, Kensei slowly stood up on shaky feet and went to the staircase that led down to his father's lower office. Once at the desk, and observing the stones he was told about, he found the one in question. Kensei took a kunai from his pouch, he slid his palm open, and let the blood drop to the stone tile on the floor. Once the blood hit the stone, it glowed a soft blue light, and with the light faded, Kensei picked the stone up and set it aside. Looking at what lay beneath the stone caught Kensei's attention. Holy shit, when father said chakra chains, I didn't think of anything like this, Kensei said while examining the sight before his eyes. Studying what appeared to be golden chakra chains crisscrossing in every direction with a golden circle in the middle inscribed with a deep engraving of the Uzumaki clan's symbol whirlpool. Kensei started thinking back to that feeling he received when his father and his fists were connected. The answer to what he was looking at slowly came to his mind, and with it he lowered his still bleeding palm over the clan's symbol and let the blood flow downwards onto it, letting the blood channel along the deep engraving of the family's crest. Once the blood flowed all around the engraved channels and stopped at the middle, Kensei moved his hand away from it and watched in awe as the symbol glowed in a golden light and split in half, letting the golden chains retract back into the ground below. So the clan's symbol was a lock, huh? Kensei pondered as the last golden chain disappeared from his view, and saw the stone that was underneath them retract backwards into the ground as well, revealing a small pathway downwards. Descending down the pathway, Kensei came to a room that still had torches lit around it, lighting the room in front of him up. Upon inspecting the room, he noticed that it was a fairly good-sized room and was filled with shelves of scrolls and cases of very old and very unique weapons and armor. I gotta find the stories father spoke of, everything else can wait, Kensei said to himself while looking around quickly for what he was tasked with. He walked around the shelves of scrolls and saw what he assumed was what he was looking for. What he found was a very large and very old scroll, and above it a small plaque was inscribed the Sage of Six Paths and the Sage of Time. Noticing the Sage of Time part, Kensei quickly figured this was the scroll that his father told him he needed to read. Walking up to the stand that the scroll was placed upon, he went to grab it. When he placed both of his hands on the ancient scroll, he was encased in a golden yellowish light, and with that light surrounding him as well as filling the room. Kensei looked back to the room he was in, and noticed the flame-lit torches' flames were standing still, no longer dancing or giving off any heat, confusing the hell out of him completely. What the fuck? As if this couldn't get any more messed up, Kensei muttered under his breath. Glancing back to the scroll his hands were placed on, he picked it up gently, and sat on the ground. Kensei started slowly unraveling the first bits of the scroll. As the scroll revealed its story to its holder, Kensei heard a voice whisper into his ear. And that scared the shit out of him. It wasn't until the voice spoke its first words that he calmed down a little bit. Do not be afraid, my child, as you are under my wing of protection right now, the voice said in a soft, gentle, and warm voice that made Kensei relax, waiting if the voice was going to speak again. You may have noticed the changes that have happened to you, my child, and you need to know that they were not done just by chance, for you are the Sage of Time reborn. I know you may have questions, my child, but please let me speak this through to the end," the voice advised. Kensei decided that he should turn his body and meet the voice that was speaking to him, but as he turned he saw a beautiful woman with long flowing white hair, piercing bright blue eyes that could see straight into your soul, and a long flowing white robe. "Dear Kami," Kensei managed to mutter out. Then out of nowhere he saw the woman giggle. "How astute of you, my child, for I am indeed Kami," the woman informed. Hearing that, Kensei's eyes bulged out, and his mouth hung agape as if trying to catch flies in what was just said to him. Because to him, the woman before him was so beautiful that there was no question that she was indeed who she just said she was, Kami. "Now, my child, as your predecessors before you, you must read the ancient scroll. When finished I shall come back to you, so that you may start what you were destined to do." And with that the beautiful figure known as Kami faded away. Turning back to the scroll, Kensei started unrolling it right away but stopped when he saw what was written down before him. "The passing of the Sage of Six Paths, huh? I thought he was just a figure of myth and legends," Kensei said to himself, still frazzled by meeting Kami herself of all people. Breaking out of his musings, he started about reading the scroll. Not skipping over any detail was not hard to do, for as the story itself captured Kensei in such great concentration that he couldn't even remember to blink at some times until his eyes started burn, as if his sister Kushina threw salt into them again. As he kept on reading the story, and nearing the end, he came across the oddest part of the story, a riddle of sorts. He couldn't make any sense of it but memorized it along with every other part of the story without hesitation, but not without questions of his own. "What is with this riddle? Carrying 9? Seeking his fist? Wait, that couldn't happen to be similar to what father and I did in the ceremony of the new clan head, would it? And what about the questions that you have to ask yourself while in meditation? It all just seems strange, almost as if parts of the riddle itself are blocked off for anyone who see it except the one who is meant to make sense of it," Kensei spoke out into the room. "I really need to learn to stop talking to myself," Kensei said with a sweat drop. Shoving his pondering aside, Kensei finished the last of the story with an eyebrow raised. The Sage of Time and the Sage of Six Paths were to be reborn in later centuries? Well, I guess that makes sense in some ways, since Kami herself just told me that I was the Sage of Time reborn. Funny, I don't feel like some super amazing sage. Hell, I can't even meditate for very long. Ag. Once again stopping his thoughts and ranting, Kensei looked back down to the scroll and revealed the second story it held from within. Once revealed, Kensei looked upon the first words of the second story and had to stop. "The Sage of Time, I really hope I can actually make some sense of this one," Kensei said, hopeful that the net part would shed some more light on his situation. With that said, he started reading the second story. It wasn't as long as the first story, but it made more sense to him than he thought it really would. So the Sage of Six Paths and the Sage of Time were brothers, but since they are supposed to be reborn into the world around the same time, wouldn't that mean that one of my Uzumaki clansmen outside that are fighting could be the Sage of Six Paths reborn? Rubbing his temples for a moment. "God, all this thinking and yelling is giving me a fucking headache," Kensei yelled in frustration. Sighing to himself, he calmed down a bit. Kensei resumed his thoughts. "Okay, I gotta think here and go over what I know. Okay, 1. The Sage of Six Paths and the Sage of Time were brothers. 2. Both the Sage of Six Paths and the Sage of Time went through the same crazy-ass hair, and I changed that happened to me this morning. 3. Said crazy-ass changes all happened on or a little after they turned 16. My birthday was a week and a half ago, so I guess that makes some sense. 4. When the Sage of Time left his brother, he said he see him soon, but it was said in the first story of the Sage of Six Paths by Kami herself that the Sage of Time would be reborn a generation before him. Okay, so there's a good chance that the Sage of Six Paths reincarnation hasn't been born yet." Digesting what he thought out to himself, he felt a presence behind him. Spinning around to where the presence was felt, he came face to face with the same beautiful woman as from before. Kensei went to his knees and bowed deeply, touching his forehead to the floor. "Kami-sama," Kensei said in the most formal and respectful voice he could muster. Hearing another giggle, Kensei looked up from his position on the floor and saw Kami covering her mouth to calm herself. "Arise, my child, for such formalities are not needed here," Kami said with a smile on her face. With that said, Kensei rose to his feet, looking at Kami with eyes burning for answers. "I see that you have finished the stories, and have understood more than those before you. That is good, my child, but the reason why you understand much more than those before you is because parts of the first and most of the second story were intended for you." Kensei was about to ask something when Kami held her hand up, halting his questions. "Now anything you are about to ask will be answered in a moment, for I have much to say to you that you need to hear," Kami informed. Nodding his head, Kami continued. As you may have noticed when you first came to this room and found the scroll before you, that the golden light that encased you and this room in fact froze time around you. You have begun your process of finding the rest of yourself the moment you stepped into this room, and as we finish speaking I will tell you how to find the rest of yourself. Kami explained, and with her words she could tell the young boy in front of her was very confused. Thoroughly confused at being told he needs to find the rest of himself, Kensei nodded in acceptance anyways. As you've noticed that your hair and eyes have changed, you may have not figured out as to why yet. But your body in fact is becoming what it once was in your other life, and now that it has returned, one of the requirements is completed. The next requirement for you is to awaken your gift that I have blessed upon you in your previous life. As I said before, the light that encased this very room is proof that the second requirement has been completed as well. Now the third and final requirement is for you to find the other half of your soul that is still in the afterlife. Kami explained, helping Kensei understand a little bit more of what was going on. Kensei really had no clue as to what to expect after hearing that last part. The other two parts made sense, he supposed, but the last one was just plain odd. Going to the afterlife to find the other half of his soul? What the hell? Don't worry yourself too much, my child, as it is much easier than it seems. For I will take you to where you need to go, and I will take you to your soul's other half so that you may be whole once more. It will take time for you to become whole again, but you will return to the world once more at the same age you are now, and set out to find the Sage of Six Paths reincarnation. Now, my child, put the scroll back in its original spot and let us be on our way, for when the scroll is placed back in its position the light will take us to where we need to be. Kami instructed. Nodding his head once again, Kensei went to the ancient scroll and rolled it back up, and placed it back on its stand underneath the plaque. When his hands left the scroll, he turned back to Kami and waited for what happens next. When Kami simply outstretched her asking for his hand, he had no choice but to comply to her silent request. As he placed his hand in the woman's hand, the room they were in was no longer visible, as all Kensei could see was golden yellowish light all around Kami and himself, and felt a tugging feeling as if he was being pulled into the sky itself. As Kensei was taken away from the secret room of the Uzumaki, stone blocks began to move into their prior positions and falling back into place, blocking off the entrance of the secret room from the staircase that came down from Kensei's father's lower office. As the last stone was set back, the golden chakra chains once again made their appearance, snaking every which way over the capstone that blocked off the staircase downwards. Once the last of the chains found their previous positions, the golden lock once again seemingly went back to its previous task at hand, denying all of the unworthy entrance to the room below. As the lock made its final adjustments, and the final click rang out silently, the deeply engraved symbol of the Uzumaki faded away, leaving it blank. Never to let anybody into the room besides the two who Kami chose. Arriving at the front lines of the battlefield, Kensei's father quickly took notice that the invading Kumo, IWA, and Kiri forces were pulling out all of the stops in hopes for bringing about Yuzu's demise. Fighting had broken out everywhere and mayhem ensued. Fallen casualties of war lay broken, lifeless, and bleeding, soaking the very ground that the Uzumaki called home red with their blood. Seeing such a sight before him enraged him to no end that such foolishness could happen to his brothers and sisters of Yuzu. Disappearing once again, he went to collect his 25 strongest ninja in Yuzu. The famed 25 ninja from Yuzu that all had flee on sight orders in every nation's bingo book, the Crimson Demons. Flashback. During the Second Shinobi War, when Kensei's father was a much younger man of the age of 24. During constant battles with enemy ninja, he and 24 other ninja were sent as reinforcements from Yuzu to aid Konoha push back IWA, when IWA was launching an attack on the Konoha forces outside the Land of Fire. The 25 ninja, consisting of men and women alike, raced from their home in Yuzu to where the Konoha forces were locking into battle without even resting to restore their chakra from their previous battles. Running for a day and a half, they reached their allied forces, and quickly set to work demonstrating their mastery of ninjutsu, fuinjutsu, and kenjutsu to all around them. To those able to see them fighting, it was easily noted as a terrifying experience. To the Konoha nin, it was terrifying in a sense that only 25 of Yuzu's nin were taking care of what well over 500 Konoha nin were trying to handle. To the attacking IWA nin, it was just downright terrifying seeing a very small group of red-haired, sword-wielding Yuzu nin completely turning the tides of the battle that was easily in favor of IWA winning before their arrival. As the day of the battle started to come to an end, Konoha with the 25 Yuzu effectively turned the battle in Konoha's favor completely when Kensei's father called out the general of the IWA army, telling him to face him in combat. The general came through his remaining nin that were alive and stepped over the bodies that littered the ground below. As the general approached the younger red-haired Uzumaki covered in blood that called him out, he proceeded in the utmost caution. Kensei's father sheathed his sword and spoke to the general in an authoritative tone. "Tell your men to lay down their arms, and to go home. Know that if IWA ever attacks Konoha again, Yuzu will send more than just 25 of her nin to take care of you. That is a promise of a lifetime, Kensei's father yelled out. The general of the IWA army was at his wits' end. His army dwindled down into the mere hundreds, a sliver of a fraction of what he brought to fight Konoha, and with no hope of victory in sight he told Kensei's father that IWA will return home, but not before saying that IWA will never forget what happened here today. Upon Iwa's return home, the general of the army put the 25 Yuzunin that aided Konoha in their bingo books with this entry: The Crimson Demons of Whirlpool. Description: a group of 25, men and women, red hair, usually covered in blood. Affiliation: Yuzushogaku no Sato. Clan: Uzumaki. Skills: extremely high ninjutsu, kenjutsu, and fuinjutsu. Orders: flee on sight, do not turn back to face them, your only hope is to somehow outrun them. Flashback end. Arriving in a secret room in Yuzu, Kensei's father found his 24 partners in battle already waiting for him, ready to follow through with his specific orders. Looking around at the faces of all in front of him, Kensei's father smiled. Brothers and sisters, it has been an honor and a privilege fighting by your side to maintain the peace we had up until this point. But it will be no more, for I have seen the forces we face, and fear even with our great might, and fearsome powers that we will be overrun, and Yuzu will fall in a matter of days. I ask of you, my fellow Crimson Demons, that you band together with me once more, and show the world that we, the Uzumaki, do not go down easily. Kensei's father spoke to his comrades. With every one of the 24 agreeing with Kensei's father put a plan together. They may not be able to win, but Kumo, IWA, and Kiri will definitely be hurting after the dust has cleared. After about 15 minutes or so of planning, everyone was smiling with a sickening wicked smile on their faces after agreeing upon the plan that Kensei's father had proposed. With a plan in their minds, the 25 Crimson Demons of Whirlpool left for the battlefield. As the battling in Yuzu continued on, panic was evident everywhere. Screams of the injured rang out, and the wailing cries of those losing a loved one or somebody close to them die in their arms carried out through the air itself. Bringing a devilish smile to the face of the Shodame Reikage, he thought about how good it felt to bring Yuzu down to its knees. His musings were cut short as the Kages from IWA and Kiri appeared before him. It seems everything is going as planned, the Mizukage spoke. The Reikage nodded in response and spoke up. It seems so, let's hurry this up and get it over with. I don't like being here more than I have to, the Reikage informed, but as soon as he said that, 25 Yuzunin shunshin before the 3 Kages. Kensei's father, standing in the front of the 3 Kages, simply smirked at them. If you think we will really fall so easily to you, then you have thought wrong. Your greed, jealousy, and fear blind you in what you really need to see, the leader of the Uzumaki clan said confidently. The Reikage, getting irritated at hearing this, fired back. And what is it that I am not seeing? I am seeing a most wondrous sight, the Reikage said in a booming voice, while gesturing to the burning buildings of Yuzu. Do you not see it? Your beloved Yuzu is falling. Your people are dying. Your homes are burning. I think it is you that are mistaken, Kenshin Uzumaki, he said with a sneer. I see it all, replied the Reikage in an overconfident and arrogant way. Still with his smirk on his face, Kensei's father simply says, while that may be, you may see some things, but you fail to really see it all, and what you aren't seeing right now is us, the 25 Crimson Demons of Whirlpool, standing before you, ready to destroy you three in the most gruesome of ways possible, Kensei's father yelled out. There were no time for words at this point. Kensei's father, the now identified Kenshin Uzumaki, and the other 24 Uzumaki Crimson Demons of Whirlpool, quickly launched an assault on the 3 Kages. The battle raged on into the night of the first day since the attack on Yuzu began, and morning broke over the mountains to the east of Yuzu, and the fighting was still continuing in earnest. Kenshin and his group of elite 24 demon nin were pushing hard against the 3 Kages but making little progress, as the 3 Kages ninja would keep interfering with the battle. Hours passed by and the fighting went on, and as dusk started to let the night sky start its descent of blanketing the earth below with its heavenly darkness, over in the direction of Yuzu a giant pillar of golden yellow light shot up to the almost night sky. Kenshin looked over to see the light, to see where it was coming from. A genuine smile spread across his face as he gazed upon it. I love you, my son, make us all proud, Kenshin said in a quiet voice before turning his head back to the battle at hand. He called out to his fellow elites. Positions. After the order was called, each of the 24 elite demon nin of Yuzu spread out in what seemed to be in random points. Hold. Another order was called out from Kenshin. Kenshin once more looking over to the golden yellow light. Seeing it fade away, he gave what would be his last order, as he knew that after this last order, Yuzu would fall completely, and that the only hope for its resurrection was his beloved son, and the next sage of 6 paths that was sure to arrive in the time soon to come. Most of his civilians that had been evacuated by now should be well behind the mountains. The ones who couldn't make it out were already killed, littering the streets of the village with their bloody corpses. His shinobi that he commanded were all essentially wiped out as Kumo, IWA, and Kiri's reinforcements kept on coming, and would surely wipe out what little shinobi he had left in quick succession. Wondering in the back of his mind, B began to question. Where was Konoha with their army? And why they weren't here to help in the battle when it started? They should have been here by now. Himself and the other 24 Crimson Demons had made it to the Land of Fire in a day and a half, so why couldn't Konoha get here to Yuzu in that same amount of time? It's almost completely nightfall now, so 2 days is plenty of time to get here. Did they abandon their sister village? Had they abandoned family? Shaking all thoughts of Konoha from his mind, he calmed himself. So now was the time. He was going to die. But he was going to die on his terms, his way, and he was going to do it in such a manner that the world will forever remember what travesty had befallen on the peaceful country of Yuzu. Kenshin still standing before the wreckage, and a large number of his, and the other Kage's forces, with the other 2 Kages elsewhere on the battlefield. Kenshin Uzumaki smiled widely. Gathering every bit of chakra his body could muster in his beaten down and worn out body, he put his right hand into the air, extending his index and middle finger upwards as if pointing the heavenly night sky, almost as if wanting to get those in heaven's attention to what is going on down below. The other 24 elite demon Nin that were already in position all raised their right hands and pointed their fingers to the night sky as well. Then all of them started flaring up their chakra as well, feeling their leader's chakra skyrocket from the battlefield. Kenshin, still smiling widely as ever, felt his fellow elite's chakra skyrocket as his, and with the last of his elite's chakra peeking out, he finally ordered out. Uzumaki Arts, Sacrificial Spiral. With their leader's last order, an attack called out, the other 24 Crimson Demons followed suit and let the chakra they were holding go, following their leader. The wreckage looked on in horror at what he was seeing coming from leader of Yuzu. Kenshin was enveloped in dark red chakra with a black outlining the red. His usual dark blue eyes that normally showed the world his mischievousness, cunning, and wisdom were no longer present. His eyes only held 2 things within them, bloodlust and power. They were blood red, and glowing with nothing present in them besides bloodlust in its truest form, ready to be unleashed upon its prey. The wreckage quickly started to think of a way to avoid the impending doom that he was sure to come. Even with his lightning armor, or his black lightning techniques, he couldn't hope to defend anything on this level. Quickly he found that he had no way out. The random points that he had thought the other Uzumakis were at were in fact carefully articulated points. With Kenshin in the middle, and all around him the others were in a carefully set in a spiral pattern. In nothing but pure desperation to save whatever men he could, he called for them to fall back, but he quickly found that his voice had been drowned out by the sound of sheer power was screeching around the battlefield. Wind was whipping around the columns of deadly chakra the last standing Uzumakis were emitting outwards of their bodies. Thunder clouds started forming in the night sky covering the nearly full moon, and stars that were trying to provide the earth below with light, and the now cloudy night sky started shooting lightning throughout it as if the lightning itself was dancing. The earth beneath each of the 25 Uzumakis started to give way, cracking as if a great weight was being forced upon it, which then turned to small 4-foot wide 2 feet deep craters. As the feeling of dread kept on rising, every ninja on the battlefield could do nothing but stop and watch. None of them able to move, none of them able to cast a jutsu to even attempt to stop what was going on. They could do nothing to stop the hellish scene playing out before them. These 25 red-haired, glowing red-eyed, blood-drenched demons were going to kill them all. Glaring straight forward to the wreckage with his giant smirk still ever present on his face, Kenshin spoke for the first time in what seemed to be an eternity, after the amazing display of power that played out before all on the battlefield. In what could only be called a demonic voice, Kenshin screamed out to the battlefield. For what you all have done to our homes, our families and loved ones, and for our country, we, the last Uzumaki, sentence you all to death. May Kami show mercy on your souls, for we sure as hell won't. Kenshin screamed, effectively making everyone present pale at his declaration. With that being said, the 25 last Uzumakis, all engulfed in their deadly auras of chakra, suddenly one by one, starting at the furthest one, shot their chakra skyward in a red and black swirling pillar of chakra. Once it became Kenshin's turn, the last jutsu of the Uzumaki clan would be used. Well, until a later time, of course. But as Kenshin's chakra pillar reached the sky, the points looking like a spiral where the Uzumaki stood, all connected together, and once the pillars connected together, a blinding light raced out across the lands. Following the blinding light, an intense heat spread at insane speeds outwards in all directions of Kenshin's body, hitting any and every living thing it came in contact with. As the heat hit everyone, their bodies were destroyed on a cellular level, essentially erasing their very existences in a mere blink of an eye. When the dust settled and one could look upon the battlefield once more, those who survived could not describe in words what they saw. For the battlefield itself that the last 25 Uzumakis took their last stand on bore the very crest of their clan. Estimating 20 feet deep and 20 feet wide, the channel of the crest sprawled out across the battle-scarred landscape for about a half a mile in a perfect spiral. What baffled the invading force just as much as the giant spiral in the battlefield was that everyone was gone. No bones, no corpses, nothing but the earth, blackened with soot in a 2-mile radius of the spiral. With no real sense of what happened, the Mizukage appeared at the outer part of the soot-covered landscape, missing his left arm from an obvious self-inflicted wound. Holding onto the stump of what is left of his arm to stop the bleeding, one of his surviving mist ninja ran over to him and yelled out, "Mizukage-sama, what happened to you? And what happened just now?" a Kiri shinobi asked frantically. The Mizukage stared outwards, not taking his eyes off the sight before him. "What has happened is very clear. First, we just won this war. 2. The Uzumaki and Uzushio are no more. 3. The Reikage and Tsuchikage have both been killed in that attack. And finally, I was nearly killed along with the Tsuchikage, but I managed to shunshin far enough away before I was engulfed in that attack like the others. As I appeared, I came to a place of distance I thought to be safe, but as I saw the attack from the Uzumaki still approaching me, I quickly stood guard, and while that attack came to me, it tried to claim me once again. But before I could try and shunshin again, the attack touched my left hand and started destroying my body. So I simply cut my arm off, and shunshined in hopes that cutting my arm off would save my life," the Mizukage explained before taking a deep breath of air to try and numb the pain before turning around to some of his men. "Now go find me a fucking medic," the leader of Kirigakure ordered. After the Mizukage received his medical attention, he called for all the surviving invading forces, and told them about their victory over Yuzu. He also told them about the black soot covering the lands of Yuzu, telling them that setting foot into the village would be ill-advised, as the soot itself is a residue of the attack the Uzumakis had used, and would destroy all those who touched it. With what everyone saw, and how many still remain after that attack, everyone agreed that the place formerly known as Uzushio would be a place nobody would venture to ever again. With the invading forces still in front of the only Kage left, the Mizukage gave an order to all. "The war is over, go back your respected homes, and celebrate with your comrades," the Mizukage ordered out. With that, the invading forces left to head back to their respected villages. With the horrors of what they experienced in the war against Yuzu forever engraved into their minds, they made their way back to their homes. But for as each nin of the invading force was heading home, he or she had something deeply disturbing plaguing their minds. They had only survived because of sheer luck alone. They were just lucky enough to be far enough away. Being strong, or knowing jutsus, or wielding a Kekka Genkai didn't even matter. It was just by luck the Uzumaki didn't wipe them all out. It was just luck that there was only 25 of them and not more. If there were more, that last attack could have killed every one of them. But it was by that luck alone that they are going home right now. Unfortunately, the fear that Kirigakure had towards Uzushio only grew after the war, and had not gone away like they were expecting it to, if Uzushio had indeed disappeared from the picture. But now, after it's all said and done, they were just going to have to accept that fear. As Kensei was taken away from his homeland of Yuzu by the golden light with Kami by his side, Kensei couldn't help but think that it was very wrong of him to have left like this. It was going against practically everything that was ingrained into his mind as he was raised. He remembers hearing his father's words as a child when his training first began at the age of 9. In his frustrated state. Flashback. "Now Kensei, before I start teaching you the shinobi arts and the ways of our clan, you must answer me this, my son. What do you think being an Uzumaki stands for?" Thinking about it for a little bit, Kensei answers his father's question. "To be strong, and protect those who need protecting?" Kensei replied. Hearing his father's quiet laughter, Kensei can't help but feel he answered wrong and was going to be scolded, but that thought quickly left him as his father told him the correct answer. "I'm amazed at how smart, and how easily you pick up on things, my son, but there is more than just being strong and protecting people that makes us Uzumaki so great. We of the Uzumaki have very large chakra reserves, and while that means all of us have the potential to be extremely powerful, that doesn't exactly matter. What being an Uzumaki really means is this. Listen well, and forever ingrain it into your young mind. To be an Uzumaki is to put one's family, friends, comrades, and country first. Forever protecting the precious bonds that you have created with the people around you. We of the Uzumaki have sworn ourselves to the people of Yuzu to protect them so long as our bodies are blessed with the air in which our lungs receive. An Uzumaki is not bound by such petty things such as political marriages, for the better of the clan, for as we believe one should be able to pursue love and happiness on their own means. Even if the person you fall in love with is not from within Yuzu herself. An Uzumaki always tries to maintain what little peace we have left in this world, even in the midst of wartime. In the whole history of our clan, never once has any of us betrayed their comrades, friends, or country, for if one so happened to manage to do so, it would forever shame our clan. Kensei's father explained with a small smile on his face. Flashback end. Coming out of his thoughts, he realized he no longer felt the feeling of being dragged upwards, and no longer saw the golden yellow light that was around him from before. He was in a place that he could only describe as pure nothingness. Kensei turned to look for Kami, who was next to him. What or where is this place? After hearing his question, Kami smiled warmly and responded. This place is a side dimension of the afterlife. The Sage of Time, or you, in your past life created this place during the time of your training. This place was created when you unlocked your gift that I gave you all those centuries ago. In this side dimension you shall have to find the rest of yourself. Kami explained. The rest of myself? How would I even be able to do that when there is nothing here? I don't understand, Kensei asked, confused. Kami, seeing Kensei's frustration and confusion written on his face, decides a small hint is in order for him to move the process along. Kensei, I shall give you a small push in the right direction so that you may start. But before I do that, there are a few things that you need to understand in order to grasp your situation. Seeing Kensei nod, she continued on. Now I know that after everything that has happened to you in this short period of time has hurt you, and inside you wanting nothing more than to make it all go away, and have things return back to normal as they once were before this. But I'm afraid that cannot happen, and for that I am sorry, my child. Kensei looked to Kami with grief-stricken eyes, with tears starting to well up in the corners of his eyes, begging for her to make him feel better. Now listen carefully to what I have to tell you, Kensei. Kami ordered softly. How can I not give you my full attention? You're Kami, you're amazingly beautiful, and I'm kind of stuck here with just you. Giving you my full attention isn't that hard, Kami-sama, Kensei said in a quiet voice. Kami gave Kensei another saddened smile before continuing. With time, my child, you shall be able to come to terms with what has happened, and you shall once again look at life with eyes full of hope, eager to find your place in the world below once more. Now I believe it would be best if I told you what will happen to you while you are in here. While you are trying to find the rest of yourself, the world below will continue on as normal. The flow of time will continue as it normally does, while time inside of this side dimension, the flow of time passes by at an incredibly slow pace. An hour that passes by inside of here equals a year to the world below. When you manage to become complete being once again with your other self, you will return to the world below the same age as you are now. Taking in a short break so that Kensei can process everything she has said so far. Now before I leave you to start your trial I have set for you, I will leave you with a few hints of sorts to help you. To start your search for the other part of yourself you must look inwards, Kensei. Also when you return to the world below and start your search for the Sage of Six Paths, go to where the leaves dance in fire. He will be there. Remember this as well, Kensei, the longer it takes for you to find yourself, the older the Sage of Six Paths will become, so if you take too long he may die of either natural causes or of something entirely different. Without the Sage of Time next to the Sage of Six Paths the world will be destroyed forever. With that Kami faded away, wishing Kensei luck in his trial. After Kami had left Kensei all alone, he started thinking of what to do. Not able to make any sense of anything at the moment, Kensei did what he always did when he was frustrated and confused while alone. What the fuck? I'm not smart enough for this shit, Kensei screamed out. His ranting and raving quickly stopping when he remembered Kami's last words of advice about how if spent too long in here the Sage of Six Paths will grow older, and without him next to him. Ah shit, this sucks, Kensei grumbled out. Kensei sat down on the nothingness, or was it a floor of nothingness? Well, whatever it was, he was sitting down crossing his legs, with his hand to his chin. He continued on with his thinking. Okay, Kami said for me to start I need to look within. I can only think of a few ways to do that, either that'd be to cut myself open and look inside me? Shaking his head violently in denial at the thought. Yeah right, like that'd be how I do this, ha 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 ha, Kensei said, laughing at his own idea. Scratching the back of his head stupidly, he began thinking once more. Okay, then the only other way I can think of would be meditating. Ah crap. I hate meditating. But that seems the most logical thing to do. I mean, Kami herself told me to look within, and meditating seems like her kind of thing. My first option would be something I would have to really consider if Yami was the one who gave me this advice, but seeing how he didn't, I think I better just start meditating, Kensei said to himself. Taking a deep breath, he went into a Zen meditation position and closed his eyes. After what seemed to be a few minutes, or was it hours? Kensei couldn't tell. All of this slower time in here and faster time in the world below crap was starting to give him one massive migraine. His eyes opened again, and seeing that he was once again in the same place he was brought to with Kami. Ugh, why can't there be a shortcut for meditating? Kensei mumbled out. Deciding that he better try it again, he took another deep breath. Calming his body, he slowly released his breath. Slowly inhaling another breath of air, Kensei calmed his mind, and once again started meditating. When his eyes closed, he noticed something different this time. He thought he could see a small blue dot in the blackness of his closed eyes. Questioning to himself in his mind, he tried to figure out what it was while staring at the small blue dot in the distance of his mind. He then noticed that whatever he was thinking, the small blue dot could be appeared before him, almost as if the two were standing next to each other. He decided that it must be a clue of some sorts, and kept on comparing other things to the small blue dot. When he came to the conclusion that he couldn't figure out what it was, he waved his hands around in frustration. Wait, what? Kensei said, snapping out of his meditation with his spoken words. He had to rethink what he just saw. Did I just move my hands from within my mind? That's just plain weird. But then again, if I can move my arms around within my own mind, maybe I can move other parts of myself, or maybe myself in general. Well, better at least give it a shot. Don't want to be stuck here forever, Kensei concluded. Closing his eyes once more, getting relaxed in the same way as before, he quickly found himself in the same black area with the same small blue dot. After seeing the blue dot again, Kensei checked to see if what he saw with his arms last time did indeed happen, and when he moved them again, he saw that they do move. With that knowledge, he moved his foot, and rolled his foot. Knowing that he can move parts of himself now, he decided to just skip the rest of the checking his body, and imagined himself whole within his mind. Seeing himself come into existence from inside his mind, he started walking towards the small blue dot. After a little bit, the small blue dot became larger, as if he was closing in upon something in the distance. The walk quickly became a run, and when seeing the blue dot become larger and larger, the run became an all-out sprint until the blue dot started filling out into a shape. Still sprinting towards whatever the blue dot had become, he continued towards it until he was close enough to see that the blue forming mass had become the form of a person. Pushing the sprint even faster, he closed in on the blue person. Arriving in front of the blue person, Kensei noticed that the person in front of him had no distinguishing feature, no hair, eyes, clothes, nothing. Just an outline of a person. Decided to see if the person thing in front of him could speak. Kensei spoke out to it. Hello? Kensei asked. Noting that he didn't get a reply, he decided to try again. Hello, my name is Kensei Uzumaki. What is yours? And what are you doing in my mind, if you don't mind me asking? Kensei questioned. Upon asking his question, he saw the blue figure move slightly, almost as if it was stretching out its limbs from standing up too long, stiff as a board. Well, hello there, the blue figure said. I wasn't expecting any visitors anytime soon. Or ever for that matter. The figure chuckled at his own words. Yeah, I am kinda here to find something. Perhaps you could help me find what I'm looking for. What's your name? You never told me. Kensei asked. The figure moved his hand to its chin before responding. Well, now that is a good question, my friend. I don't either remember or know my name, but I do have a title if you'd like to hear that instead. The figure spoke. Sure, I guess, as long as I have something to call you by, Kensei replied. The figure removed its hand from its chin and said, I am the Sage of Time, for that is all I've been able to really remember up until this point. Kensei looked at the blue figure with an eyebrow raised and a skeptical look on his face. So you're the Sage of Time, huh? That's kinda weird, 'cause you don't look like a sage, or a person for that matter. You look like a. Stopping his sentence upon realizing what the blue figure really is. So, Kensei finished. The blue figure tilted its head to the side after hearing Kensei speaking. Yes, you'd be correct. I am the Sage of Time in soul form. I could only come here after leaving my human body on Earth, and coming to the afterlife to do what Kami had instructed me to do, the figure informed. Kensei quickly dropped his skeptical look and shot out. Then you are what I am supposed to find. Kami had brought me here as well after all of these weird things happened to me. She said that I am the Sage of Time too. So you must be the other part of me that I need to get to make myself whole again. Kensei said, excited that he had found what he was told to look for by Kami. The blue figure put its hand to its chin once again, thinking. Well, that makes sense then, seeing as only Kami herself can bring a person to limbo, the side dimension of the afterlife. It's all coming back to me now. Kami told me that the only person I'd ever see in here would be myself reborn. Well, let's get this started then, the soul suggested. The blue figure then put his fist outstretched from his body towards Kensei. Kensei, catching on quickly, did the same, allowing the two's fists to bump into each other. As their fists met, Kensei noticed that the figure was being drawn into himself through his fist. What's happening? Kensei said, voicing his concern. He blue figure simply said. We are becoming one, once again. This will hurt a bit, the soul informed. After the figure's voice stopped, Kensei's eyes grew wider as he saw the figure be quickly sucked into him through his fist, followed immediately by an excruciating pain all over his body from his toes to the top of his head. As the pain intensified even more, Kensei's concentration completely shattered, kicking him out of his mind. Ah! Damn it! What the holy fucking hell is happening to me? I feel like my fucking mind is going to be liquefied and about to explode. Gah! Kensei screamed out, trying to push away the intense pain that was coursing throughout his body, to where he could slowly start to get himself under control to where he didn't have to scream out. Gritting his teeth as hard as he could, he finally cracked. Why couldn't this be a less painful? Gasping as the pain increased once again. Method. Fuck. And with that, Kensei passed out from the intense amount of pain and stress that was being put on his body. Slowly fading back into Kensei's mind, and reaching over to Kensei's still body, Kami smiled, and whispered to herself. I am truly amazed that you stayed conscious at all after the other part of your soul rejoined you, but for you to stay conscious during the first half of the memory recovery, you are indeed someone incredible, Kensei Uzumaki. Kami spoke with warm motherly smile on her face as she waited for Kensei to reawaken so that the next part of his journey may begin. A tired and sore Uzumaki finally started coming to after what he could only describe as one hell of a shitty experience. Sitting up and propping his arms behind him to stay up and looking himself over, he noticed Kami was still by him. Ugh, what happened to me? I feel like I died, or something? Kami just giggled at the situation. Well, I guess in some sense you did, Kensei. You have to remember that the other half of your soul no longer had its original body as a vessel because the body had died. I guess you could say you have been born 3 times now and died once, if you want to be technical about it. Kensei, obviously confused about the who being born 3 times and dying part, just had to have an explanation of what Kami meant. I don't get it, being born 3 times and dying once? Kami just giggled and nodded her head. Okay, so you born the first time in your previous life in the Sage of Six Paths era, you died in that era as well. So by that fact you are at being born once, and dying once. Then you were born in this era in Yuzu, getting you to being born twice and dying once. Kami looks at Kensei to see if he's still paying attention. Now with the other half of your soul rejoining you, you have been reborn into your true self, not in body but in spirit. Still equaling you being born a 3rd time now. Do you understand now, Kensei? Kensei just dumbly nodded his head, still lost on the whole topic. Okay, I kinda get it now, so what happens now? I mean, I don't really feel any different than I did before the other half of my soul rejoined me, Kensei said after a few seconds of trying to figure out as much as he could on what had happened to him so far. Well, you shouldn't feel any different as from before simply because it was your soul joining back together. When the soul is reconnected and made whole again, there are no physical side effects aside from headaches later on. What will happen after some time will be a knowledge transfer. Simply put, the other half of your soul will give you the information and knowledge it gained when you were alive before. Kami paused for a few seconds to let what she said sink into Kensei's head before she continued on with the topic at hand, but before she could continue, Kensei spoke up. Alright, but how long was I out for? All I remember was feeling as if I was being torn apart from the inside out, and then nothing. Scrunching his face up as he recalled the intense amount of pain he had experienced in the soul fusion. Kami just looked at Kensei, waiting for him to release his tensed-up body, knowing he was recalling the pain he went through not too long ago so he could remember everything in detail she had to say. You have been asleep for almost 23 hours now, Kensei. Also, it took you 3 hours to find the other half of your soul. So you have been inside of this side dimension called Limbo for a total of 26 hours. Kensei quickly started to panic upon hearing this, remembering that 1 hour inside of the side dimension he was in was equal to a whole year in the world down below. Are you serious? I've been here that long? And you didn't wake me up? I could have found the next Sage of Six Paths if I was awake sooner. Frowning after thinking he should have been up and out of here sooner. Do not worry, Kensei. Unfortunately, when a soul that has been fragmented and is being fused or rejoined back together, the soul acts almost as if it was a cut. The 2 pieces of skin require time to heal and rejoin the skin back to what it once was. The same theory goes for the soul. Once fragmented, it needs time to heal itself. Another thing is that while the soul is healing, if disrupted, the healing won't be properly done. So waking you before your soul was fully healed was something even I did not have the luxury of doing. For that I apologize, Kensei. Kensei nodded his head in acceptance. I understand, and you don't need to apologize to me, Kami-sama. I'm just a lowly human being. You need not apologize to me. Saying the last part quietly. Just a lowly human being? Kensei, my child, you are anything but a lowly human being. Humans in general aren't lowly beings to begin with. I am the creator of all things. So in a sense I am a mother to all, and no mother would want their child to think so little of himself. So please don't belittle yourself, Kensei. Kami said with a warm, heartfelt voice that made Kensei at ease. Kensei, it is time for you to return back down to the world. Before we part, there are a couple of things you need to know and made aware of. Besides the fact that the world below will be different than what you remember, it is still the same place, filled with familiar faces as well as familiar enemies. When I return you back to the world below, you shall be brought back to the place where you left to come here. Try and come to terms with your emotions, but do not let them blind you and lead you astray from what you are meant to do, Kensei. Kensei sighed after hearing this, and was thinking about everything that must have changed of the past 26 years that he had been missing. I will do my best to do so. Nodding her head, Kami gave her last bit of advice before the journey to the world below started. Now once you return to Yuzu, remember you will find the next sage of 6 paths in the land where the dancing leaves burn. That is all I can tell you, my child, for even as the creator of all things, even I cannot just outright tell you where he will be at one point in time. All of my children down in the world below have their own wills to go and do as they please, so I cannot foretell where they will be other than the general areas in which I have done for you. Now let us leave so you may begin searching. Farewell, Kensei Uzumaki. We shall meet again in due time. Best of luck, my child. As the last of Kami's words ended, the blank space known as limbo slowly started forming into the world below, starting with the daytime sky filled with white fluffy clouds lazily floating across the sky, teasing all below them of how much of an easy existence they have. Following the formation of the sky, the earth below started forming, showing it to be black in color rather than a happy green lush grass color, or the usual color of brown soil. Destroyed buildings and houses started popping up all over the place, showing Kensei that the place he is in now has long since been destroyed and abandoned. As the last of the broken-down abandoned ghost village appeared, a demolished harbor and port appeared, with waves of the salty ocean crashing against old rotting wood, as if trying to remove the wood's existence from the world so that it may resume its constant battle of eroding the shoreline back inwards. With everything fading into existence, the light from the sun shined brightly at Kensei's eyes, causing him to squint them almost shut, and to put his hand to his head to shield himself from the sun's relentless attack on his bright sapphire blue orbs. After his eyes stopped dilating and adjusted to the light of the world, he looked around a bit, trying to take in everything he was seeing. And what he was seeing, he really wished he wasn't. Kensei was looking at the abandoned ruins of his beloved home. At first, Kensei didn't think that it was Yuzu that he appeared at, but once the harbor had appeared, he instantly knew that it was in fact Yuzu just by looking at familiar landmarks off in the distance. But if that wasn't enough proof, seeing his dad's old office in which he used to go to as a child all the time and play, crumbled before his feet, was the nail in the coffin on disproving that it wasn't Yuzu he was standing in. My God, what happened here? Really not liking what he was seeing, Kensei began to shake slightly. This has to be some sort of genjutsu, or some kind of messed up dream caused from something I ate. It has to be. I could never imagine my homeland being in such an abysmal state. Tears started to well up in the corners of his eyes as he continued surveying everything around him. Mother, father, Kushin, and Ichin, my clan, my people, they're all gone? The tears in his eyes finally let themselves fall as Kensei continued on, trying to grasp the situation he was put into. Hello? Is anyone here? Please, anyone, Kensei called out in desperation, hoping that anyone would respond to him and tell him that everything will be alright. In a quiet voice, Kensei started to put things together. I'm all alone. I have no family alive, no friends to lean on and support me in my time of suffering. It's too much. I can't do this. Tears now racing out of his saddened and grief-stricken sapphire blue eyes and down his cheeks. I can't do this alone, sniffing to clear his nose and attempting to stop his tears that were starting to sting his face. Father, what should I do? He questioned into air of nothingness around him. Suddenly his father's voice echoed throughout his mind of the time of Kensei's father Kenshin performing the ceremony of transferring power with him, from inside his office. Flashback. I can't answer all of your questions, Kensei, but you will never be alone. You will have all of us in your hearts forever. You can never cut the bonds you have made in your life, and while losing us will hurt, you must be strong, hold your head up high, chest outwards, eyes bored into the direction of the world in defiance, and help carry on our bloodline. Flashback end. Kensei smiled softly at the memory of his father's comforting words. Drying his tear-stricken face, he started rethinking everything before him, so that he can plan his next move. I hope I don't fail your trust, Father, Mother. I will never forget about either of you or everyone else that is no longer among the living that perished here. Sighing and clearing his head of his sad thoughts, he started thinking out loud. Okay, I need to start moving, and start my search for the next sage of 6 paths. Kami said he'd be in the land of the dancing burning leaves, completely confused as to where he'd find a land with dancing leaves, let alone burning ones, was way beyond him. It would probably be best if I started off by going to one of the smaller villages nearby Yuzu, and see what I can find out about what is going on in this time. I gotta be somewhat up to date with what's going on in the world right now, if I'm supposed to be one of the two that will help bring true peace to it. With his first decision made, Kensei took the first step in what would be a long journey in the path to bring true peace to the world. I hope at least the smaller villages that surrounded Yuzu are still around. God, that'd suck if they didn't. Haha, chuckling weakly, Kensei started down the black soot-covered remains of the road leading out of Yuzu, trying to ignore everywhere that was near him except the path before him so that he wasn't bombarded with painful memories of happier times in the place of his birth. Little did he know, but every small village that surrounded Yuzu was wiped out while Yuzu was being attacked in order to eliminate all possibilities of Yuzu shinobi hiding out waiting for the destruction to end. The closest village still standing is in the Land of Waves, about a day's walk from where Kensei was. Elsewhere in the Land of Waves, a certain team just completed their main objective of their very first C-rank mission of protecting a certain drunken bridge builder in the Land of Waves. This team consisted of a young 13-year-old, dark-haired brooding emo boy named Sasuke Uchiha, a 12-year-old, bubblegum pink-haired obsessive fangirl named Sakura Haruno, and lastly a peculiar 13-year-old, definitely ADHD blonde-haired boy named Naruto Uzumaki. The three young shinobi were led by the famous 25-year-old, ex-Anbu captain, closet pervert, Kakashi Hatake, most easily recognized by his warped silver hair. The four of them made up the Konoha Genin Team 7. As Team 7 was walking back to Tazuna's house after the battle with Zabuza and Gato, the team was conversing with one another in an attempt to make the walk go by faster. Okay, so by them conversing with each other I mean Kakashi simply reading his favorite little orange book, giggling like a little schoolgirl every once in a while. Sakura obsessively trying to cling to Sasuke for being so amazing after hearing that he unlocked his clan's Dijitsu in the battle against Haku. And then there is Naruto, who is constantly trying to drag Sakura's attention from their brooding teammate, who had his hands shoved into his pockets, and his head turned to the side trying to avoid all contact with the both of his Genin teammates. And Naruto was trying to convince her that he did just as much as Sasuke if not more, while trying to squeeze and asking Sakura out in hopes if he boasts enough about what he did she would notice him. But seeing how he isn't getting anywhere, he gives up for now. With a sigh, Naruto turns to his Jounin sensei, Kakashi sensei. Seeing his sensei turn to give his student his attention, Naruto continued, how long are we going to be staying here in the Land of Waves before heading back to the Konoha? Kakashi put his little orange book down from his face a bit, pausing from his walk, thinking. I'd say about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Why do you ask, Naruto? Scratching the back of his head, Naruto simply said, well, since you asked. I'm wanting to get back home so I can take Sakura-chan out on a date. Sakura, hearing this, gets a couple tick marks on her forehead before raising her fist and yelling, Naruto, you idiot. I told you to stop bugging me. I will never go out with you. You're just an annoying nobody who tries to act cool like my Sasuke-kun. Even if you weren't so stupid and annoying, I'd still not go out with you. Sasuke is the only one I'll ever be with. With that said, she stomped over to Naruto and nailed him on the top of his head, sending him to the ground in a heap. Mama, let's just all calm down now. There's no need to be fighting amongst each other. We just survived a very hard ordeal, and I'd rather not have to explain to the Hokage that we had to stay here in the Land of Waves longer than need be because Naruto was in the hospital, with one of his teammates being the one responsible for putting him in the hospital to begin with, Kakashi said while holding his hands out in a stop motion. The still silent Naruto lay on the ground nursing his now injured cranium, was thinking about why Sakura does this to him. Telling himself he will think about it once they get back to Tazuna's house, he gets himself off of the ground and puts a solemn look on his face. Turning to Kakashi once more, let's get back to Tazuna's place. I really need to shower and eat something. Walking off in front of his team, he sets off for Tazuna's place but didn't get very far. Sakura, quickly seeing an opportunity to throw a jab at Naruto, takes it, seeing how she's still pissed at him for telling Kakashi that Naruto was going out with her. God, Naruto is eating all you think about. Not only are you annoying, weak, and stupid, but you're a pig too. Shesh. Naruto quickly spun around on his heel and with a glare locked onto Sakura. Is yelling all you can really do, Sakura? Because if that's the case, then maybe I really don't want to go out with you. Clearly I don't even know why I even care anymore. You're not even a nice person. Releasing his glare from his female teammate, who is standing there slightly shocked that Naruto actually spoke to her in a way that was not full of praise or begging. Naruto looked over at Sasuke, who had a jackass-like smirk on his face from the antics both his teammates have been putting on. Naruto turned his head back to his sensei, who was just observing the situation, not wanting to make anything worse. I'll see you guys back at the house. With that, Naruto took off at a full sprint in the direction of Tazuna's. With her shock finally gone after seeing Naruto's fading form disappear into the trees, why, that idiot. How dare he talk to me like that? Who does he think he is? Looking over to her crush for support, expecting him to defend her from Naruto's words, Sasuke just looks at her with a bored expression. What? What do you mean, what, Sasuke-kun? That idiot Naruto just yelled at me. Aren't you going to defend me? Getting starry-eyed as she starts daydreaming about Sasuke putting Naruto in his place and telling him to back off from what's his. But she was quickly snapped back to reality when Sasuke spoke again. Don't look at me. I could care less about you or what you think. You, Sakura, are a pest. Pausing so he could enjoy the depressed look on Sakura's face. I actually agree with Naruto. Yelling is about all you can really do. Why you're a kunoichi I'll never know. But I am glad Naruto is done caring about you as well. Less headaches I'll have from not hearing him constantly bugging you. HN. With that said, Sasuke resumed his walk to Tazuna's house. The still ever silent Kakashi, after watching the whole scene play out before him, finally decided now is the time to speak. Sakura getting her attention, he continues. What you need to understand right here, and now, especially after what we just overcame with Gato and Zabuza, is that the life of a shinobi is a very dangerous one. And while I admire that you made it this far in your career, I strongly suggest you determine if you are really doing this for the betterment of yourself, or just to get Sasuke's attention. Watching Sakura stay silent in thought, Kakashi mentally prepares himself for what he was going to say next, because it was going to hurt Sakura. Well, it was meant to in the first place, but it had to be said nonetheless. This whole time that we have been Team 7 together, Naruto and Sasuke have been training to better themselves for their own personal goals, pushing their bodies to the limits so that they may achieve those goals. But I have to ask you, Sakura, how far are you willing to take this? You may never achieve the rank of Chunin if this is the mindset you are going to keep in your shinobi career, and while I will protect the three of you with my life, I can't help but feel that you will die if you fall out of my field of protection on any mission. And losing someone close to me is something I will never want to happen to me again. Pausing for a little bit so Sakura can understand that he is dead serious about this. Let me ask you, think, Sakura. What really are your goals in being a shinobi? At a complete loss, Sakura sits down on the ground and remains quiet for a few minutes. I don't even know, Kakashi-sensei, I just want to be useful. Sakura, that isn't a valid enough reason to willing take on a profession of such psychological and physical stress. As a shinobi we do, and see many horrible things. Things that not many people wish to see. We as shinobi live very short lives, and any day could be our last. Only people with the strong will to fight can live the shinobi lifestyle. Pausing again so that he can take in a breath of fresh air. You can be useful in just about any other profession in Konoha, Sakura. So either you're lying to me, or you yourself really don't know why you're putting yourself through all of this. Sakura just sat there upset. Here she was being told the very reality of what she was doing with her life, and that made her upset at herself. She, Sakura Haruno, was upset at herself, because her sensei was right. Did she even have the will to fight in the first place? Is the only reason why she wanted to be a shinobi in the first place was because of her trying to get Sasuke's attention? Why did she join the Shinobi Academy in the first place? Sighing to herself, she looked up to see her sensei still standing there. Thankful for that, she decided to at least try and give him an answer to his question. I really mean that I want to be useful, Kakashi-sensei. I know I can be useful doing something else in the village, but I want to be useful here. I want to contribute to my team, but I feel like I'm just holding them back. Averting her eyes from her sensei, she waited for a moment or two to collect the rest of her answer from her mind. Sasuke and Naruto always seem to be growing stronger and stronger so quickly, always pulling away from me and leaving me behind. Unable to do anything helpful for them. Sure, I don't like Naruto, and I think he's annoying, but he's my teammate, so I want to help him if he is in trouble or something. But I can't do anything even if I wanted to. I just want to be useful to my team, she said the last part of her answer with a very quiet voice. Kakashi was slowly digesting everything his young female genin had said and started to form an idea or sorts that may work for Sakura. Now only if she would go along with it, couldn't hurt to try, right? Sakura, seeing her pop her head up at him upon hearing her name. Are you sure you want to continue this path of being a shinobi? Watching her nod her head once, he continued, will you take your shinobi training seriously from now onwards? Once again Sakura nodded her head in agreement. Alright then, Sakura, if you truly want to still be a shinobi, and truly want to be useful to your teammates, I may have a couple of ideas on how you may just be able to do that. Seeing her eyes light up in determination, Kakashi knew that there was still at least a small glimmer of hope for his bubblegum pink-haired genin. Alright, Sakura, the best thing I can think of would be for you to start learning some beginning genjutsus. You have great chakra control for your skill level, so building off of that seems like the best thing we need to start with. I know the perfect teacher who can teach you them pretty quickly if you focus, and you take her training very seriously. Also, on top of learning some genjutsus, I will see about getting you some scrolls on becoming a medical ninja. If you aren't exactly suited for close-up or long-range combat, learning to become a medical ninja would be the best alternative for you. When out on the battlefield will be useful in more ways than one. You can heal us when we are injured, and can provide genjutsu support for when we need to retreat or to disorientate an enemy. Now, for the final time. Are you positive this is what you want to do? Seeing her nod, Kakashi, I smiled at her. Alright then, we shall begin as soon as we get back to Konoha. With Naruto and Sasuke at Tazuna's home. Naruto, upon arriving first, went up to the room him and Sasuke shared, went to go grab his casual clothes from his bag for after his shower. Still thinking about Sakura and what had happened a little while ago, Naruto was still irritated. Walking to the bathroom, he started to think out loud. What have I ever done to be treated like shit by everyone around me? Sure, there are the exceptions of Jiji, Iruka-sensei, and Kakashi-sensei, and the Ichirakus, and a few of his classmates such as Shikamaru, Choji, Shino. Well, he never really said anything to him positive or negative, so I guess he still counts. And other than that, there is Hinata, who has said nothing but positive things to me, and never has put me down before. But she always gets sick whenever I try to talk to her. Maybe she doesn't like me, and pretends to be nice? Reaching the bathroom, he steps in, and turns the water on. Stripping down, and hopping in the shower, he continues on with his musings. Other than those few people, everyone else treats me like I'm a walking freaking plague or something. I know I have the Kyuubi seal inside of my gut, but come on. He's sealed in. Me meaning I'm not him. Grumbling about how stupid people are, he concentrates on cleaning himself off. Hopping out of the shower, and turning the water off, he hears the bedroom door that Sasuke and him are sharing open and close. Quickly drying himself off, and getting dressed in his black t-shirt with the red Uzumaki swirl on the front and dark green cargo shorts, he hangs the wet towel on the towel rack, and grabs his dirty clothes, and heads out of the bathroom. Tazuna's kitchen. Arriving at Tazuna's house as Naruto finished his shower, Kakashi and Sakura both enter the house, and start talking with Tsunami and Tazuna, who just got back a little bit ago as well. Tsunami and Sakura were talking while preparing dinner for everyone, while Kakashi and Tazuna were talking about random things just to pass the time. All the while Kakashi was curious as to what Naruto and Sasuke were doing. After 20 minutes of talking about nothing of importance, Kakashi decided to check on the boys. Back with Naruto. Naruto came into the bedroom from the bathroom to see Sasuke sitting on the windowsill looking outwards at the landscape outside. Naruto decided he should just do his own thing, and not even try conversing with his dark-haired teammate since he was in a bad mood at the moment, and Sasuke, well, he rarely ever willingly talks to him to begin with. As he put his dirty clothes in his travel bag, and sat down on his bed, he started putting his ninja sandals on, wanting to get away from the house, and be alone to think. He heard the strangest thing. It was Sasuke speaking to him, completely catching him off guard. Where are you heading off to? It wasn't a randomly asked question. Sasuke knew something was up with his annoying blonde teammate, and he knew what Naruto was going through right now, because he had the same look in his eyes that he did whenever he wanted to be left alone to think. With Kakashi. After climbing the stairs, Kakashi made his way to the spare bedroom that Naruto and Sasuke were sharing, but stopped at the door as he heard Sasuke speaking. Decided to stay by the door and listen. Kakashi put some chakra to his ears so he could hear inside of the room a little better. Waited to hear what the boys were talking about. Back inside the room, Naruto continued putting his sandals on, then putting his forehead protector inside his travel bag before responding. For once, not wanting to talk very much, simply just got right to the point. I'm going out on a walk. I want to be left alone, I need to think. All while not even turning his head to look Sasuke in the face. But if he did turn to look at Sasuke, he would have noticed Sasuke hadn't even moved at all from his position overlooking the outside world through the window. I know. Naruto quirked an eyebrow at that. You know? Hearing a aha from Sasuke, Naruto got off of the bed and started walking to the door, but was stopped before he could open it and leave, for Sasuke said something else, once again surprising Naruto. You know, I'm not really like what everyone else thinks. Forgetting his plan to leave the house for the moment, Naruto decided that this was something that he should probably hear out from Sasuke. I really hate being alone, and I know you hate it just as much as I do. The air in the room seemed to be holding an odd feeling of honesty in it. Well, that's what Naruto thought he was feeling when he heard Sasuke start talking. I see the way people look at you, Naruto. I don't know why they look at you that way or how you stand it, but it confuses me. Sure, you may have played pranks on God knows how many people in the village, but those aren't enough to make the villagers look at you like that. Naruto started gritting his teeth upon being reminded of how he is treated within the village. Everyone thinks I'm some amazing prodigy, but I think that's just because I'm the last one of my clan left. Other than that traitor. The only reason why I am as skilled as I am now is because I have nothing. No family. No real home. And it bugs me that I don't have any friends, because everyone is either an overly obsessed fangirls like Sakura or Ino, or people I just plain don't get along with. So all I have left is training. Training myself into the ground so that I can forget all the things that I have lost, and all the things wrong with my life, past and present. Sasuke finally turned his head from looking outside to Naruto, expecting to see him either gone or goofing off in some sort of way. He was shocked to see Naruto just standing there facing him with a knowing look on his face. In some odd way, Sasuke just hit one of those points where one couldn't hold back everything that is bothering them anymore, and Naruto just happens to be the closest thing to an actual friend he had. After hearing Sasuke talk for a bit, Naruto decided he needed to say at least something before he left. In a serious tone, Naruto readied his response. I know how you feel to a certain point. And while I never had a family, or even knew my parents, I've always been alone. From the very beginning, nobody to care for me, nobody to cheer me up when I am down. Hell, I never had anybody there for me to actually wish me happy birthday, not that I'd ever want to celebrate my birthday in the first place. That got Sasuke's attention. Why wouldn't you want to do anything for your birthday? Sasuke asked. That's simple. My birthday is the same date as the anniversary of the 4th Hokage's battle against the Kyuubi. A whole village full of idiots who already don't like me as it is, plus them being really drunk never ends well for me if I'm spotted outside of my apartment on that day. Sasuke, seeing the logic in that just as I understand, Naruto then decides he better finish what he was going to say to Sasuke before he left. Anyways, being alone for so long with absolutely nothing does suck. But you gotta at least try to make a couple friends. You don't have to have many of them. Just a couple people who you can trust and rely on when you are in time of need. That's all you need in a friend. Even with me knowing all this, I still can't make a single true friend. There's always something standing in the way of it, be their parents, their clan, or some kind of excuse. Naruto said, shrugging his shoulders, but you and I aren't that much different. I also train myself like crazy to get stronger. I know I yell around the village that I am going to be Hokage, but with the way the village sees me, even if I did become strong enough to be Hokage, the village would most likely simply choose someone else over me just because they hate me for whatever reasons. Sasuke, deciding on what to add to the conversation, throws out something. Do you remember our first meeting with Kakashi-sensei at Team 7 and what my ambition was? Nodding, Naruto said, yeah, it was to kill a certain man, right? What about it? Well, the man that I have to kill is my older brother. Now that shocked Naruto. Sasuke wanted to kill his brother? Why do you have to kill your brother? Sasuke's face tilted forwards, hiding his onyx eyes with his hair. Because he's the one that killed my parents and my clan. Clearly not expecting that one, Naruto just sat there with a neutral expression on his face, calmly thinking about what he knew about the Uchiha clan massacre. But why would your brother slaughter your parents and your clan? He said that he needed to test the strength of his new eyes. That's about all he said to me as far as why he did it. Sasuke started to become uncomfortable with where the conversation was going. It was starting to bring back the nightmares of what happened that dreadful night. Naruto sat there deep in thought, going over everything he could think of about the Uchiha massacre from the times he had weaseled his way into the old man Hokage's office while he was asleep at his desk. Remembering seeing a couple of papers on his desk that he read out of curiosity, but what was on those papers wasn't coming back to him at the moment. Sasuke, I never knew your brother, but you did. Was he acting different that he usually did before he did, you know? Sasuke started to think about the days leading up to the massacre, and remembered that it was only 2 days before it happened that Itachi started acting weird. Yes, sort of. He was the same up until 2 days before it happened. He would usually help me train in the time he had off away from missions and Umbu meetings. Not wanting to mention about Itachi's habit of poking Sasuke in the forehead for not wanting to get embarrassed, he quickly shook that thought from his head, as thinking of Itachi in the way he was before it happened was not something enjoyable either. But 2 days before it happened, a few of the Uchiha from the police force stopped by our house questioning Itachi about his best friend's suicide. They got in an argument, and Itachi started getting aggressive, which is not usually like him. But when our dad showed up, Itachi quickly went back to how he usually was. But I swear I saw his eyes Sharingan change into a different pattern before he did. Stopping to judge Naruto's expressions with calculating eyes, Sasuke saw that Naruto seemed to actually be listening and caring about what Sasuke had to say. Something that never really had happened since his mother was still alive. On the night of the massacre, I was out late practicing my shuriken throwing, and once I made it back to the compound, I saw what Itachi had done outside of the compound. I ran to my house and saw my parents slumped over each other, dead and bleeding out heavily. I saw someone standing over them, and noticed it was Itachi holding a bloody katana with a blank expression on his face. It terrified me that my brother, who I saw as an idol, do such a thing. I didn't get to think anything else, as Itachi used some crazy genjutsu on me, and tortured me inside of it for what seemed like months. When I came to, I was still in my parents' living room, and Itachi was still there. So I ran outside of the house, and made it to the alleyway in front of the house. But Itachi caught up to me, telling me to devote my life to hating him, and to seek him out, and try to kill him for what he had done. But only on the condition that I must have the same strange eyes he had. After that I blacked out. When I came to, I was in the hospital, and Itachi had disappeared. Nobody has heard of anything about him since that night. So that's what happened to me, and what I know. Sasuke couldn't believe what he had just done. He completely unloaded everything that has been bothering him for the past however many years, on Naruto nonetheless. The class clown, and dead last. But then again, maybe there was a reason why it was so easy to tell Naruto what happened. I still don't get it, Naruto said, still with the same neutral, but thoughtful expression on his face. Itachi said he was testing his powers when he's killed your whole clan, right? Seeing Sasuke nod his head, he continued, okay, so if he was testing his powers, then why after he killed his clan except for you, did we not hear about him killing other extremely powerful shinobi afterwards? Doesn't that just seem off to you? Bloodthirsty killers who want to test their powers usually always go seeking someone else out to test themselves against, so why is it that your brother just disappeared without a trace? Also, if he was planning to kill his whole clan, why is it you were spared? Even after you came into contact with him, while it happened he let you live. The whole thing just doesn't make sense here to me. He must have had some other kind of motive behind it is what I'm thinking. What it was I couldn't tell you, but what you said about him wanting you to hate him, and seek him out to kill him, is actually something that sort of makes sense to me. Sasuke, hearing this, definitely gave the blonde his full attention. Go on? Think about it, Sasuke, with the whole clan gone, and only you left to deal with, and cope with the loss of everything, you would have been downright dead inside. Not able to do anything, least of all become a shinobi. I think that when he said for you to hate him, and seek him out, he was trying to give you a reason to fight, something to make you constantly push yourself for, and become stronger. He gave you the goal of killing him so that your clan would be seen once again in a greater light after you have, I guess you could say, purged the evil from the Uchiha clan's history. Genuinely shocked and surprised, Sasuke could only sit, amazed that his blonde teammate could be so insightful on anything besides ramen. With Kakashi. Apparently Kakashi was having the same problems controlling his shock, as he almost fell forward, hitting his head against the door when he heard Sasuke willingly talking about what happened to him during the Uchiha clan massacre with Naruto. But the real kicker was Naruto himself, and how he thought everything out so thoroughly and actually came to the conclusion he did. Back in the room, Sasuke was going over what Naruto had said very carefully, scrutinizing the aspect of the possibilities that Naruto had brought up over Itachi's actions. For the first time in a very, very long time, Sasuke felt better about the incident regarding his clan, feeling as if he knew more about it or something. Talking to Naruto about his family's demise hadn't been a planned conversation for any time for that matter. But now, after he got everything out in the open, he felt much better about it. Almost as if he was talking to a friend who cared about him. Decided on this concept of being friends with his blonde teammate, Sasuke started talking again. You've been holding out on me, Dobe, Sasuke said, smirking slightly. I don't know if I am dreaming, or if it's the near-death experience I just survived through, but I swear I never thought you'd be this insightful. But what you said really does make sense to me in some sorts. There is still a lot of missing gaps to what happened, but I understand what you're saying. Naruto, a little irritated at the Dobe comment. Look, this isn't a dream for one, and two, you'd be surprised at what I'm actually like when I'm by myself. You should know this as much as I do. When you're completely alone, you tend to have a lot of time to think things out. And three, don't call me Dobe ever again. He growled out the last part. Sasuke at this point actually was forgetting about talking to Naruto about his least favorite memory, and was actually enjoying the blonde's company, and talking to him right now was fun? Yeah, I think you're right, I'll have to come up with a new nickname for you, Sasuke said with his smirk still ever present on his face. After a few more moments of silence, Sasuke spoke once more. Hey, Naruto. Yeah? What is it? Sasuke, not really sure how he should ask this, just decided to just say it, and not spend too much time thinking about it. When we get back to Konoha, you want to train together? I could use a good training partner, as well as some company, I suppose. Naruto was taken back by Sasuke's question, not even sure of what to say at this point. He just decided to go with it. I'm going to be training by myself anyways, he thought to himself, plus company would be nice while training. Breaking out of his neutral bleak expression, Naruto made his decision, and let a small smile come across his face. That actually sounds nice, two very lonely people training together to become stronger, as well as to keep each other company. Don't forget the from going insane part, Sasuke said, after which he started chuckling. Oh yeah. Must not forget about that part, haha. Naruto being so focused on the conversation Sasuke and him were having, Naruto decided to forget about leaving the house to go on his walk to go cool off. Smiling, Naruto decided he would be fine just staying at the house until dinner was ready. With Kakashi. Kakashi, I smiled, as well as smiled under his mask at hearing his two students talking out some of their personal problems, and was glad that the two of them were actually going to make an effort in trying to get to know each other better. With what Kakashi was thinking about the end of the conversation his two genin students had in the other room, as he slowly walked back down the hall, and down the stairs to the kitchen once more. Seeing Sakura setting the table, and Tsunami about to start putting food on the table, he decided he'd go tell the boys that dinner was about to be done, and to come downstairs. So he turned back around, and made his way back to the boys' room, and knocked on the door a few times before letting himself in. Inside the room. When he entered the room, he saw Naruto laying on his bed staring at the ceiling deep in thought, and Sasuke was pretty much looking the same as Naruto was, except Sasuke was near the open window, looking at the forest behind Tezuna's house, also deep in thought. After a few moments, both boys focused their inwards attention outwards, and to Kakashi. Seeing he got their attention. Dinner's being set on the table right now. Why don't you guys come downstairs? I know you said you were hungry, Naruto, he said with his infamous eye smile. Sure, Kakashi-sensei, I'll be right down. Sasuke agreed with Naruto, just nodded his head, pretty much saying the same thing. With his reason for coming back up to the room completed, he turned and left the room but didn't shut the door. As he walked down the hall at a slow, steady pace, he heard Naruto speak. You know, Sasuke, if we are going to be training together a lot so we can grow stronger, and so that we both aren't so alone anymore. You should remember this. I may think of you as my rival, but I will always be your friend first and foremost. And I hope that when, or if the time comes that you end up facing Itachi, that you will let me come with you, so that I can help my friend in any way possibly. Just remember, even though we used to be alone, we aren't alone anymore. Hearing Naruto's words made Kakashi smile from underneath his mask, as he resumed his trek back to the kitchen. Once in the kitchen, he saw Sakura helping Tsunami bring the last of the food prepared for their dinner to the table. Turning his attention back to the staircase, he saw Naruto and Sasuke walking down them, heading for the table as well. Kakashi couldn't help but think to himself that there just might be enough hope that his team will make it. Upon descending back into the world below, and arriving in the now ruins of Yuzu, and upon quickly leaving them, we find Kensei walking down a small narrow path, worn down by so many travelers on foot over the years, deep in thought, and if one could see the look on his face, one could tell he was clearly pissed off. The birds were chirping happily in the trees, talking with one another. Small forest creatures were scampering about throughout the forest surrounding the small path Kensei was walking on, leading even further away from the ruins of Yuzu. And all was peaceful throughout the forest. Life was good for the creatures living there. Not a predator in sight, not a... God, what the fuck is going on? Kensei screamed out as a dark red cloak of chakra outlined in black enveloped him, and his eyes, flashing blood red, finally broke his deep concentration and silence after several hours. Effectively scaring the living hell out of everything within the forest, and sending the once happy birds scrambling to get away from the area now. After realizing that screaming out in frustration was killing his throat something serious, and feeling slightly lightheaded, he started to think out loud as he continued on to his next destination. Stupid birds, stupid trees, stupid sleeping outside with nothing. Ack. Everything is stupid. Flashback. Kensei finally arriving at a hilltop overlooking one of the villages located outside of Yuzu around 8 p.m. as the sun was starting to set. His eyes bulged out of his head, and in a matter of milliseconds his Uzumaki short temper did something even scarier than normal. It got even shorter. What the fuck is this shit? Roaring to the now night sky, flaring up his chakra into the sky brightly, pissed off at what he was looking at. Kensei said to himself. This whole place is totally destroyed. There isn't even one house or building still standing to sleep in. His emotions doing a complete 180, Kensei started crying anime tears while falling to his knees. Why? Why do you hate me so, Lady Luck? Kensei started weakly pounding his fist into the ground of the hilltop he was on. Stopping his little tantrum, Kensei looked back to the desolate village and sighed to himself. Guess I'm sleeping outside with nothing better, go find a comfortable tree or a rock. Flashback end. Kicking an innocent rock that laid in the middle of the pathway as he came up to it in his walking. Of course, all the stupid villages nearby Yuzu would just happen to be destroyed when I took the time to go to each of them. That's just my freaking luck. With his frustration growing even higher, he started to get lightheaded from letting his temper get the better of him once again. Stupid family, short temper. Silent for a little while as he continued his walk, he broke the silence in the forest once again with his outwards thinking. Of course, now that I have come to realize that the small villages outside of Yuzu are destroyed, and by the looks of them, they have been destroyed for almost as long as Yuzu has, that now I have to go to the land of waves, grumbling under his breath about how he should have just gone there to begin with. Well, at least the roads and pathways leading to the other villages and countries haven't changed very much since I was away, and I can still find my way around so far. Noticing a worn-out piece of wood sticking out of the ground about 50 feet ahead of him, he quickens his walking pace to reach the sign to examine it. Once Kensei reached the worn-out piece of wood, and crouching down to look at it more carefully, he noticed it used to be a sign indicating that a village was up ahead. Unfortunately for Kensei, the name of the village was missing from the broken, weather-worn old sign. Sighing to himself, Kensei tried to recall what he remembered about the travel times to get to the land of waves. Alright, so it's been about 7 hours since I left the last village I got to, and the land of waves is a day or so walk from Yuzu, so with me 7 hours outside of Yuzu in a slightly different direction. That means that, god damn it, why does it hurt my head so much? Tio think right now. Taking a deep breath to calm down before resuming his thoughts. Ugh, okay, that means I should be about 11 or 12 hours or so away from the land of waves when I left that last village that was 7 hours out of Yuzu. I've been walking for a good 9 hours now from it. It's mid-afternoon now, and with 9 of the 12 hours down I should be able to get to the land of waves here in the next few hours if I continue walking, or I could start Chakra stopping dead in his tracks. And with a horrified expression on his face forming, sprinting almost as if he was struck by a lightning bolt of stupidity. Ah, son of a bitch, you is be real lel smart shinobi ain't as you can say? He mocked himself in an attempt to find the humor in the position that he had put himself in. Without a moment's hesitation, Kensei took to the trees, sprinting through them with chakra-enhanced leaps between the branches. As Kensei was screaming through the forest trees like a 12-year-old girl chasing after Justin Bieber's limo on the freeway in the middle of rush hour traffic, and keeping up, Kensei calculated his now actual time of him needing to reach his destination. I should be able to make it there now within the next hour if I stay at the pace I'm going now. Hopefully all that soul bonding, body tearing, lack of sleep, lack of food, and mentally draining experiences that I went through with Cammy, and with the whole ordeal with Yuzu hasn't drained me of all my freaking energy. That'd totally suck ass if I passed out right in front of the entrance to the land of waves, shaking the thoughts of him not having enough energy to make the trip. Kensei upped his pace through the trees, blurring into a black shadow that raced through the trees. Little did Kensei know that Lady Luck was a bitch, an old crusty hag of a bitch that obviously had it out for our handsome young. Or is he really old? Oh fuck it doesn't matter him, as I was saying, oh yes, who had it out for our handsome young sage of time reborn Uzumaki. And what he didn't know was that his earlier outburst, in which scared the shit out of the forest's cute fuzzy widow creatures, had in fact awakened one of his clan's secretly known Gekkenkais, and with its awakening it drained nearly all March 4th's his chakra. Yes, Kensei will be screwed. With Naruto and Team 7, Tizuna's house. After his conversation with Sasuke the other day, dinner with his team and Tizuna's family was actually one of peace and no clear signs of aggression. For that Naruto was glad. Even though he decided on not leaving and going on a walk, he still was a bit sore on the subject that was Sakura. And because of that he avoided talking to her or being near her completely. Sasuke remained his usual self at dinner, which wasn't really hard to do. But with the feeling of not being completely alone in his life still, warmly made him smile on inside. But that smile would fade from his mind once Sakura would come up to him and try to talk to him for God knows whatever reason. Only giving Sakura a HN as a response for yes, and a HMPF as a response for no. Sasuke was able to quickly shake Sakura from driving him insane. As night settled in the sky above the world, dinner at Tizuna's was finished, and everyone thanked Tsunami for the food. Naruto and Sasuke excused themselves from the table and said they were going to bed so they could be ready for the next day. Taking Naruto and Sasuke's lead, Kakashi excused himself as well, telling everyone that he was going to go keep watch on the roof for anything suspicious that may approach Tizuna's house over the night. Being the little lost puppy Sakura is, she quickly said she was going to bed as well, and went upstairs to her room for the night. With Kakashi. As everyone went to sleep except for Kakashi to be ready to help Tizuna work on finishing the bridge in the morning, Kakashi went outside of the house and jumped to the roof. Making himself comfortable at the highest point of the house, Kakashi sighed, and laid back with his arms behind his head and started to relax while occasionally glancing around the house every once in a while before going back to his relaxed position. After about an hour of being atop of the roof and starting to doze off, Kakashi was only 3 or 4 nods of his head away from passing out. That is until he felt a very high chakra signature, and what he thought he heard was yelling in the very far-off distance. Quickly bolting himself into a standing position, while still on the roof he looked towards where the signature was. Being a shinobi of great experience for so long, and being dragged into the Third Great Shinobi War as well as the thousands of life-or-death battles he's been in over the years of his shinobi career, Kakashi immediately knew that whoever was emitted that chakra was pretty powerful, and pissed off. And that definitely was worth keeping note of. Filing the away for later, he quickly sensed the chakra signature disappear completely, as if it never appeared in the first place. Well, that was definitely strange. Whoever that was, I would not want to be around them for very long. With a shrug of his shoulders, Kakashi laid back down on the roof with the thought that the signature was about a little bit shy of a day away from where he and his team were at, so he had nothing to worry about if the signature was coming for them. With that, the veteran shinobi, an ex-Anbu captain, closed his exposed eye and slowly let himself relax so he could fall asleep. Next morning at the bridge. Team 7 woke up the next morning bright and early and ate a good breakfast that Tsunami had made for them, and all of them followed Tizuna to the bridge to help him and his workers finish the bridge, so they can go home and complete their mission entirely. After getting to the bridge, and starting to get to work bringing supplies that the workers needed. The team of Genin Konoha shinobi were quickly getting bored and fed up relaying wood, nails, and whatever else the workers needed to work quickly. After 4 hours of helping the workers build the bridge, Naruto was at wit's end. He had enough. He wasn't a pack mule, damn it. Walking back to the supply pile with Sasuke and Sakura, Naruto snapped, "Argh. I can't take it anymore. Why are we the ones just running back and forth bringing the workers their crap? Bring me more wood. Fetch me my toolbox. Get me some water, I'm thirsty. Well, you know what I say, piss on that. They can get their crap themselves." Looking at Sasuke to see if he agrees with him, sees Sasuke with lips tightly held together, as if he wanted to blow up along with Naruto but decided to at least attempt to hold the urge for now. Naruto being well, Naruto sees Sasuke's in the same boat as him and decides to take it even further. "You know we are shinobi, right? You know we fight and kill people? And yet we are stuck being pack mules for God knows how long until this bridge is finished." Kakashi, hearing Naruto's outburst, walked over to where his genin were, and sighed as he knew this conversation was going to be the cause of a migraine. Thinking to himself before he gets to Naruto and the others, this is going to be a long week or so until the bridge is finished. I hope Naruto doesn't blow up like this every day. Getting to where Sasuke and Naruto as well as Sakura were, Kakashi asks the obvious, "What's wrong, Naruto?" "I'll tell you what's wrong. Being reduced from a shinobi to a pack mule. That's what." Quickly fired from Naruto's mouth. About to reply to Naruto, an attempt to defuse the situation before Naruto gets on a roll and starts yelling about everything else as he has so kindly has done on all of their past D-rank missions. But before Kakashi could speak, Sasuke surprisingly spoke up. "Kakashi-sensei, Naruto is right. It's not only annoying, but it's degrading. We should be training." Kakashi was about to speak but was "what do you know" interrupted by the less than polite at the moment Naruto. "Yeah, Kakashi-sensei. I mean, I know we are on a mission to help Tazuna protecting him, and told him we would stay until the bridge was finished, but I mean, come on. Can't I just leave a bunch of shadow clones here at the bridge with Tazuna for protection and help, and you take us to go train?" After Naruto said that, he noticed Kakashi was very quiet, and that his teammates were looking at him in confusion. Kakashi with his mouth dropped, making his mask look funny, completely enamored that Naruto thought of using shadow clones for help, and pack meals for the other workers before he was in complete shock once again from Naruto's thinking. Deciding that it actually would be a good idea for Naruto to use his shadow clones, so the bridge could be completed faster, and that meant they could get back home to Konoha quicker. Everyone would be happy. Perfect. You bring up a very interesting point, Naruto. Go ahead, and make as many as you want, and Sasuke, Sakura, and the original Naruto will come with me to train for a while. Thank God. Surprised by the outburst, everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing and looked over at the group of 4 Konoha shinobi, curious as to who was that yelled out. With Team 7. Kakashi looked on at a peculiar teammate in his little team with amusement in his lone exposed eye, that was bored straight at Sasuke, who was the cause of the yelling. Naruto nudged Sasuke in the side, lightly chuckling and saying, "Ha ha. I knew you were just as pissed as I was at doing the grunt work from hell. Ha ha. You really shouldn't hold it in like that when you are pissed. It makes people look at you like you're a naked, dirty, fat, diseased, homeless dude on a fashion show runway full of supermodels. Ah ha 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 ha." Sasuke, getting embarrassed at what is going on, just glares at Naruto, shutting him up for the time being. "Can we please go train now, Kakashi-sensei?" Now it was Naruto and Sasuke who were just plain shocked. Sakura, actually wanting to train? Quickly panicking in either seriousness or stupidity, Naruto started racing around in circles, screaming at the top of his voice, "Oh God, the sky is falling. Hide the rum. Get to the bunkers. I don't want any more toothpaste, mommy. The cheese is always twice the fence post. Ah, the world is ending. Umph." Sasuke quickly clotheslined Naruto to shut him up and end his hysterical tirade. Naruto, quickly getting back to his feet, quickly apologized to everyone while rubbing the back of his neck while grinning like a complete moron. Sasuke was currently rethinking wanting to train with Naruto when they get back to the village, if this was how he was going to act all of the time. But then again, it was pretty funny. Mentally shrugging his shoulders, he just continued watching what was going on before him. "Sorry about that, guys, I kinda freaked out there for a second," Naruto said while trying to regain some of his sanity back. "I just couldn't comprehend that Sakura was willingly wanting to go train with us." Chuckling a little at saying that out loud. To him it was like a sandwich made of apple slices, cut strawberries, a pineapple ring, and peanut butter on the bread, and "my daughter's mom would eat those when she was pregnant." Shivers, it kinda caught me off guard. "Sorry." Kakashi Simple said, "It's alright now, make your clones, Naruto. I'll go explain to Tazuna what's going on, and then we will begin." After he finished talking, he walked over to Tazuna, who was ordering a few other the workers around on what to do next. Quickly putting his fingers in a cross seal, Naruto called out Kagebushin no Jutsu, creating 100 copies of the oddly dressed blonde-haired, orange jumpsuit-wearing character we all love. Telling his clones to do anything Tazuna orders them to do, and to dispel themselves after they are all done, he starts walking with Sasuke and Sakura over to where Kakashi is so they can figure out what kind of training Kakashi has in store for them. After following Kakashi for 15 minutes, the team stops in a cleaning perfect for training. Kakashi, thinking it's time that he gives Sakura a little personal training for a bit, orders out to Sasuke and Naruto to spar for a while he and Sakura practice her chakra control and her ability to sense genjutsu as well as dispelling them. After an hour of sparring, Kakashi ordered Naruto and Sasuke to perfect water walking since they completed tree walking with chakra not too long ago, while he continued training Sakura. Speaking of Sakura, Kakashi was actually surprised that his little pink-haired genin was a natural at sensing genjutsu and dispelling weaker ones, and her chakra control was fairly good for her skill level. Smiling at the thought of Sakura being a great genjutsu user and medic flashed through his mind while Sasuke and Naruto continued on become fearsome frontline fighters able to wipe out hordes of enemies while Kakashi sat back at a safe distance and read his little orange book. Shaking the thought from his head, he noticed his mask was slightly damp near his mouth. Was I drooling? He thought to himself, oh well, I can dream, right? Turning his attention back to Sakura, he saw her looking at him funny. What is it, Sakura? Nothing, Sensei, turning her head away to avoid his lone viable eye. Slightly confused and wondering what Sakura is thinking, he was going to try and get it out of her, but instead it seems he didn't have to, for Sakura spoke up a few seconds later. Kakashi-sensei? Do you really think I'll be able to catch up to Sasuke-kun and Naruto if I am able to pull this training off and actually get good at it? Self-doubt, that's the reason behind this, Kakashi thought. Yes, Sakura, that I have no doubt about. In fact, I think you will surely pass them both up, if you work hard enough, and devote yourself to always betting yourself in any way you can. If you do that, I know you will become an excellent kunoichi that will be well known everywhere for your skills, Kakashi said with an eye smile. It wasn't a lie. While he thought Sakura would indeed be a great kunoichi, the chances of a shinobi coming out of the dark from a civilian family catching up to the last Uchiha, and God forbid the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, were really not in her favor. But that wouldn't stop him from giving his other student the positive words of encouragement that she really needed at this time in her career. As Kakashi was about to say something else, something immediately caught his attention, very quickly, and suddenly a vaguely familiar and very powerful chakra signature popped up, most likely the same person from last night when he was on watch duty from atop the roof. And this person was very close by too. Whipping his to where the presence was coming from, he noticed it was coming from the direction the bridge was. Naruto! Sasuke, come here! Turning his attention back to Sakura, Sakura, stay close, and as soon as we get to the bridge, stay by Tazuna's side. Seeing Naruto and Sasuke sprinting to their sensei upon hearing the tone of his voice filled with uncertainty moments before. All three of you hold on to me, and don't let go. With that, Kakashi shunted his team to the bridge to get there as fast as possible. If whoever it was that was putting off that amount of chakra was going to do what he thought he was going to do, they needed to be there, and fast too. Arriving at the bridge in a swirl of leaves, the genin of Team 7 all let go of their sensei, all with mixed reactions to the sudden feelings they just felt. Sasuke seemed to be just fine, but on the inside he was feeling lightheaded from the sudden acceleration of his sensei's shunshin. Sakura, after releasing Kakashi's hand, quickly found herself dizzy as all hell, and wobbling on her feet as if they were about to collapse beneath her. Naruto, however, had a slightly different reaction to the experience. Sensei, you have got to teach me that, Naruto said while grinning like a dumb shit. Maybe later, Naruto, but now is not the time. I don't know if any of you three can sense chakra at all yet, but I just felt one spike up, and is still very much so present. He paused for a second before continuing, and it's coming this way. He turned his body facing the opposite direction across the water, where the pathway leads to where the incomplete bridge was being built. In a very serious flat tone, Kakashi advised. Be on your guard for anything. The amount of chakra I'm feeling coming this way is definitely not normal by any means. Do not take your eyes off of whoever comes into sight across the water on the pathway, got it? Turning his head back to his genin, he looked at Naruto and Sasuke and gave them a stern nod. Instantly getting the meaning to what their sensei was saying behind the nod, Naruto calmed his mind for whatever appeared beyond the incomplete bridge, and Sasuke quickly activated his Sharingan, and loosened his joint and muscles ready to react to any oncoming attack. Kakashi looked to Sakura with the same look, and she struggled to comprehend it for a few seconds, but quickly remembered her sensei's words before they left the clearing. Nodding her head, she quickly took off in the direction of where Tazuna was standing with workers, who were all quiet and alert from the shinobi's sudden appearance and demeanor. With Kensei. Kensei had been tearing through the trees closest to the pathway, so he didn't stray too far from his path for what seemed to be well forever. But in actuality it had been for about 45 minutes now. Focusing chakra to his feet all this time had started to become really hard for him to do for the past couple of minutes, almost as if he was running very low on chakra, and was having to force the chakra out of himself to keep going. Come on, almost there. Trying to will himself farther faster, he continued to drag more and more of what little chakra he had left in his body as he jumped from seemingly the same branch endlessly. And haha, get it? Just like in the show? Wiggles eyebrows. Feeling himself at his limits, Kensei jumped down from the trees, took off at the same pace down the pathway, hoping that running on flatter ground would help him get farther. Back with Team 7 at the bridge. Kakashi held his left hand to his kunai pouch, ready to grab some at a moment's notice. Focus harder at the pathway across the water. He's almost here, get ready. The seconds seemed to drag on forever as the figure had still yet to appear into the open, and it was putting the veteran join-in squad leader on edge. Kakashi's eyes widened at what he started seeing barely peeking over the tops of the shorter trees along the pathway. A strange red glow was racing along the path. The glow seemed to be dancing barely above the tops of the 15-foot trees. Back with Kensei. Kensei was in pain as he raced through the trees. He started feeling like his chakra was burning the inside of his body. He recalled the very few times he had actually experienced chakra exhaustion. It felt very similar to what he was feeling right now. But this feeling wasn't the only thing he was noticing. He also felt a pressure from inside of him, almost as if a dam was in its way from coming out. These feelings were too confusing, and in the amount of pain he was experiencing from his chakra being damn near gone and trying to focus on running so that he could get as close to the land of waves as possible before the inevitable of him passing out happened. Then he felt a chakra signature in the distance, a pretty good one too. He was no genius at sensing emotions and intentions behind a chakra signature other than straight bloodlust, but he could tell that the signature he felt was giving off a warning to those around, almost as if trying to scare everyone off. As he was getting closer and closer to the signature, Kensei stumbled a little bit, slowing him down to a quickened jog for a moment. Kensei started feeling that pressure that was building, about to explode. Wincing at the even greater pain he was feeling from the presence that was pushing at his insides, Kensei closed his eyes for a few moments as he jogged. All of a sudden, that pressure from inside of him burst, just like a dam exploding from having a massive amount of explosives on it, letting the river it once held back flow back to its natural course. As soon as the pressure erupted, Kensei's eyes snapped open, and his chakra skyrocketed. Freaking out, Kensei saw himself covered in a dark red chakra cloak with what looked like black flames. Or was it mist? That outlined the red of the chakra cloak. Freaking out at what he was seeing, but not stopping his pursuit of reaching his destination, he carried on until he started seeing the tree line thinning out. He started seeing shades of blue from between the trees, indicating to him that he was nearing water. Water! Yes. Picking up the pace, he once again sped along the path, almost as if he was hovering over the ground, not even allowing his feet to touch the ground. Turning what he figured was the last bend in the pathway before reaching where he was trying to get to, he sped around the corner. General overview. Kakashi, not really liking the red ominous glow that was approaching the other side, but ready for whatever happened, nonetheless looked on as he bent his knees, ready to attack the person arriving to the bridge. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke were both looking at the same spot as their sensei in anticipation. They may not know exactly what to do, but if a fight is what this came to, they'd at least know how to do that to a certain point. Naruto was starting to get antsy. Well, of course, he was. People with ADHD tend to do that when in suspense, haha. But Naruto was for some reason really curious as to what it was that got his sensei to start acting this way in such a serious manner, that he didn't even bring out when he was facing Zabuza. Sasuke, meanwhile, was indifferent as he waited for whoever it was to appear. Sharingan ever present, ready to help him attack or defend. But like Naruto, Sasuke was starting to get an anxious feeling, almost as if yearning to battle whatever it is that got his sensei to act so seriously. Meanwhile, said red glowing mystery man aka Kensei finally reached the bend in the path and turned the corner before seeing a broken bridge that was being worked on, in which apparently the workers were working on it a little bit before he showed up, through the red glow that he was emitting from his body. He didn't know, nor did he care at the moment. He made it, finally taking a deep breath of air. I finally made it! Kensei yelled out as he pumped his arms above his head in victory. But the moment was lost for him as soon as his arms went up, as the world around him faded, switching to a black nothingness, sending the young black-haired blue-eyed sage of time reborn face first in the dirt of the pathway with a loud thud that was heard by Kakashi and the others, and kicked up small little dust clouds where his body had slammed into the earth below. Team 7, Tazuna, and all of his workers all deadpanned at what had just happened before them all. None of them able to comprehend what it is they just saw. Naruto was the first to speak after seeing this mysterious red glowing guy show up, and totally eat shit in front of them all, passing out. What the hell? Naruto asked. Yeah, I'd like to know that myself, Sasuke put in his 2 cents. Well, it seems our guest over there has passed out from chakra exhaustion, lifting up his headband, revealing his Sharingan. I don't sense any chakra in his body right now with my Sharingan, so I think it is safe to approach him and investigate. I'll go and check it out. You two stay with Sakura and protect Tazuna if anything happens. Kakashi took off and ran across the water below with caution. Upon reaching the other side of the bank, Kakashi slowly started approaching the person who put in such a cautious state. Getting closer and closer to the figure, Kakashi was able to hear small sounds almost like whispering. Closing the gap between himself and the man who dropped face first into the ground below so stylishly, Kakashi was able to hear exactly what was coming from the guy out on the ground. He was snoring. What the fuck? The Kakashi heard Kensei mumble out in his sleep. Tell Lady Luck she's a bitch. Kakashi finished closing in on the distance between the two of them, after not hearing anything else from him, and knelt down beside the fallen man, checking his pulse. Finding his pulse normal, Kakashi signaled for the two boys on his team to come across the water. Naruto and Sasuke, seeing their sensei's signal to approach, took off to their masked sensei. When they reached him, they slowly approached the fallen man as well, observing what they could see of what the guy looked like. All they could really see was that the guy was about 5 feet 11 inches and had black spiky hair almost similar to Naruto's, except they weren't as big as his, and that his hair almost long enough to cover his ears. The guy wore a black muscle shirt exposing his very toned shoulders, biceps, triceps, and forearms over fishnet armor. They also noted he had black Umbu-style pants that went down to his ankles, that lead their eyes to the man's black ninja sandals. Also taking note of the man's katana, kunai, and shuriken pouches, they were certain the guy was a ninja. The man also had a gray chunin vest on covering the other parts of his black shirt and fishnet armor. He looked as if he was around 16 or 17 years old. It was Naruto, who was quickly snapped out of his examination of the fallen male before him. Look at that! Naruto pointing to the back of Kensei's Yuzu-styled issued chunin vest. That's just like mine. Pulling at the left arm of his orange jumpsuit, doing a closer examination of the white swirling design that adorned his left shoulder. Why would he have this on his vest? Kakashi, obviously deep in thought after looking over the man on the ground, especially after Naruto pointed out that the man before him did in fact have the Uzumaki and Yuzushio crests on his vest. Reaching farther into the back of his mind, he tried to remind himself of what the chunin vests of Yuzu used to look like back when he was told all about Yuzu from his sensei back when he was younger. Kakashi was brought out of his thoughts as Sasuke picked up a stick from nearby and handed it to Naruto. Maybe Naruto asked for it. Or Sasuke thought it'd be funny to poke the fallen guy who was emitting a serious amount of chakra. But it was more of the fact that Sasuke did want to poke the guy with the stick. It's just that after seeing the amount of chakra the guy was putting out from his body through his Sharingan, he didn't dare want to piss off a sleeping bear. So he gave it to Naruto, knowing that he couldn't resist doing such a thing and would do it without thinking of the consequences, and handed Naruto the jagged stick. As soon as it was in Naruto's hands, Sasuke bolted to a nearby bush to hide in, observe in either amusement at the funny situation, or in horror as the sleeping beast wakes up and tears his only friend apart in a mere seconds. What a great friend, right? Naruto took the stick from Sasuke, still confused about the guy having the same white swirl on his vest as he did on his jumpsuit, quickly forgot all about it as he smiled widely, showing his teeth, and crouched down and started to proceed poking Kensei in the ribs with the stick a few times. Kakashi, fearing the worst, went to pull Naruto away from the prone and passed out. Kensei quickly seized all movement as he heard the prone figure speak in a muffled voice in between Naruto's poke to the guy's ribs. Stop it, Kushina-nichan, it's not funny. The world stopped for Kakashi after hearing that. Kakashi, staring at the figure on the ground, went over in his head what he knew about Yuzu in lightning speed. Uzumaki clan crest, and Yuzushio symbols boldly shown to the world on his vest, just like they all did when they were still alive. The figure said Kushina-nichan, and he only knew of one Kushina, and she was his sensei's wife, and his blonde-haired Genin's mother. Thinking even harder, he remembered Kushina telling him about her having only one sibling, but she thought he had died in the destruction of Yuzu all those years ago. Even so, this guy couldn't be the brother of Kushina in the first place, he was too young. If Kushina's brother was in fact still alive somehow, he would be well into his late 30s, maybe early 40s by his guess. Breaking out of his thought process, Kakashi ordered Naruto to stop poking him, and to step away. Taking the hint from his sensei's seriousness in his voice, Naruto stepped away from poking the guy with the jagged stick, slightly saddened by no longer being able to do so, and watched what Kakashi was about to do. Kakashi reached for the back of his belt, and dug into one of the pockets. Finding what he was looking for, he pulled out a pair of chakra restraining cuffs. Carefully getting closer to the downed, and now drooling Kensei, he grabbed Kensei's right arm that lay motionless next to his body, and put one of the chakra cuffs on his wrist. After doing so, he proceeded to do the same to Kensei's other arm. After getting the restraints on him, Kakashi looked over to a seemingly innocent bush. Sasuke, go over to the other side, Find some rope quickly so we can tie him up. Seeing Sasuke emerge from the bush, take off to retrieve what he was asked to do, Kakashi looked over to Naruto, who still was holding on to the jagged stick in his right hand that dangled at his side. Sighing, Kakashi said, "Go ahead." Naruto didn't know if he was hearing things, or Kakashi was reading his mind, but he sure as hell wasn't going to waste the opportunity to jab the sleeping guy with the stick a few more times. Readying the stick, Naruto walked back over to the Kensei, and started poking him in the back of the head and cheek. "Are you sure he isn't dead, Kakashi-sensei?" Chuckling, Kakashi just said, "Yes, Naruto, I'm sure he isn't dead." "Well, just what are we going to do with him? He could be an enemy, or a spy," Naruto questioned. "While those may be possibilities, but this proves to be a great opportunity to find out quite a few things about him, such as if he is an enemy or a spy. Thankfully, the chakra restraining cuffs that I put on him will cut all of his chakra flow, so he won't be getting out of them anytime soon, unless we let him go," Kakashi explained. "Okay, I think I get it now." Kakashi nodded in acceptance, and turned to the sight of Sasuke arriving with some rope just as Kakashi asked. "Thank you, Sasuke." With that, the silver-haired closet pervert said, "I want you two to pick him up enough off of the ground so that I can tie him up properly. One cannot be too careful when subduing powerful enemies, remember that, you two." Seeing them both nod their heads, Kakashi gave out another order for them to follow through with. "Now I want the both of you to grab one of his legs, and I will carry the rest of his weight on my back as we go back to the other side of the water, and figure out a place for us to keep this guy." Hearing a HN from Sasuke, and a "You got it!" from Naruto, the three picked up Kensei's still form, made their way back to the other side of the water. Getting Kensei to the other side wasn't much of an issue, and didn't take very long to do. When they got back to the other side of the water, Kakashi told Tazuna of what he knew about the guy they have tied up, and asked if he'd be alright with Kakashi bringing him back to his home, and keeping him in the spare bedroom he was staying in, telling him that he personally would be the one watching over the sleeping guy tied up until he knew what exactly to do with him. Tazuna debated in his head before telling Kakashi that it was alright as long as the guy never left the room unless Kakashi himself was present. Agreeing on the terms, Kakashi told Tazuna that his team and himself were going to head back to his house for the day. Tazuna just bid them farewell, and that he'd see them later on tonight. Arriving back at Tazuna's home with Kensei in tow tied up, drooling Kakashi's shoulder, Kakashi's sweat dropped at how carefree this kid was when he was sleeping. The chance of one sleeping so soundly with the possibility of being captured by an enemy was not something that ever happened unless it was a female enemy, one that just so happened to have a great body and nice soft round per no. Kakashi quickly shook his line of thoughts from his mind, opened the front door, and told the boys that they were heading to Kakashi's bedroom. Once up the stairs, and into Kakashi's bedroom, they all were a little worn out from carrying Kensei all the way back from the bridge to Tazuna's place, so Kakashi told the boys to just put Kensei on the bed. Kakashi was trying to control putting Kensei down on the bed, but Naruto and Sasuke apparently didn't think the same thing as they swung Kensei's legs out to the bed, causing his body to rotate slightly while dropping to the bed, bouncing slightly, slamming the sleeping boy's head against the wall. Then the still body, from the amount of energy and force he was thrown, slightly rolled enough to where his body unceremoniously rolled off the bed and onto the hardwood floor below with a hollow thud. Naruto and Sasuke sweat dropped at what just happened, seeing that the person who they just unconsciously threw into a wall then had him fall to the floor didn't wake up at all. But they finally snapped out of it after hearing Kensei mumble while laying on his side in a jumbled mess of a heap on the floor. "Stupid floor," Kensei mumbled out, then continued back to snoring logs and slowly letting drool pool up in his mouth in his unconscious state. Kakashi, regaining his composure after everything that happened, said to his two genin, "I will be watching over this guy," pointing to the snoring and now completely drooling Kensei on the floor, "over the time that he remains with us. In that time I will figure out if he is an enemy or an ally. Now, since I can't just up and leave him here by himself, and seeing how he could wake up whenever and still be able to walk around even in his tied up state, I'm going to need you two as well as Sakura to take over watching over the house at night. You three will rotate in shifts. I'll let the three of you figure out how you want to go about splitting up the shifts. Also, while I'm up here, I'm going to need one of you three to bring me food and things of the sort. And whenever I may have to leave to room for a moment, I want the two of you both in here in my short absence. Understood?" Hearing them both said hi, he told them they have the rest of the day to do what they like after they go back and retrieve Tazuna and Sakura here shortly. As Naruto and Sasuke left the house a little while ago to meet up with Sakura and Tazuna, Kakashi found himself wondering about the tied-up guy still on the floor sleeping. With a sigh, he dragged Kensei's body over to the corner of the room and propped his body up against the walls so he can sleep in an upright position. After finishing that, Kakashi found himself talking out loud in his guest room all by himself with an unconscious temporary prisoner. "I can't make any sense out of you." Talking to the sleeping Kensei. "Why is it that you are wearing clearly standard issued Uzushio shinobi gear, and have that Uzumaki clan crest on your back. Only members of the Uzumaki clan can wear it. Also, you don't have the red hair that every one of them seem to have. You almost look like an Uchiha sleeping there like that, with your black hair, but I know that's impossible. But then again, nothing's impossible in this world of shinobi. Turning to look out the window, Kakashi sees that the sun is getting ready to start setting, so he made his way over to his once again free bed, and pulled out his favorite little book to pass the time. Once Team 7 and Tazuna made it back to his house and dinner was set at the table, Naruto brought up Kakashi's food for him, and went back down, and ate with the rest of his fellow genin. Thinking about how long the boy upstairs was going to be out for, Naruto couldn't help but get an odd sense somewhere in the back of his mind that the boy upstairs was very familiar to him, but that's impossible. Clearing that thought from his mind, he resumed eating dinner as usual. And once dinner was finished, everyone worked their way back to their respected rooms, and went to sleep for the night, hoping that the strange guy from earlier will wake up and answer some of their questions they have for him.